Present.
Mayor Julian.
Here. We have a quorum, so if you will, please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next item, item 3 is agenda review, and looking at several of the, well, especially the public hearing, I've recommended that we move item after the Director of Public Safety's move item 10 and 11 up, and then number public hearing down after the Guadalupe Farmers Market. Is that good for the council?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next item, presentation, San Bernardino County Broadband Strategic Plan Project. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us here today. We're really excited about what we're going to be presenting to you. I want to thank the council and the mayor, Julian, and city manager Godin for having us on your agenda, because we've come a long way since the last time I was here. I'm here with Maria Kelly, who will be doing the majority of the presentation. I'm just the warm up for the So I just want to give a little brief overview of how we got here today. About a year ago, the SBCAG, the Santa Barbara County Association of Government Governing Board, directed me to work with the city and the county to come up with a broadband strategy to get better access to our communities and to identify the needs of each community and put that into a strategy, and so we can be eligible for future funding. So a while back, we came to this council, and you graciously and generously supported that proposal and actually contributed funding to that proposal. And we are here today to give you the overview of what's been done since. So as the initial kickoff to the project, we hired the Broadband Consortium of the Pacific Coast to do the majority of the work. And they've been very busy with 12 public events. We've done a survey and online testing of the speeds. And we've done an inventory of the existing conditions, and we had analyzed the results and looking for holes in what is inhibiting broadband services to our communities. So what our goal here is today is to present that strategy to you, and then eventually this will be presented to the SBCAG Governing Board for their adoption, hopefully in December. And then the next step is to apply for funding, which we've already done. We applied for funding to continue this moving forward and to implement the plan. So we've applied for $500,000 from the Public Utilities Commission to continue SBCAG's efforts in facilitating this and helping the jurisdiction implement the projects that are necessary to improve broadband in our areas, as well as another $500,000 was applied for on behalf of the county to do a programmatic EIR, environmental impact report on the broadband implementation that we hope to accomplish. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Maria Kelly to give you a lot more of the details of what's in the strategy and get any feedback that you may have. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You did it. Thank you. So this is my 5th time being here this year. I'm gonna miss seeing you all. So thanks for having us this time.
You need to buy a home over here.
You know, I would actually. I don't love in Santa Barbara County. So let me go back. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to close it for just 1 minute so I can get up on stream.
So we're going to go through the outline of the presentation. We're going to cover a little bit of the project background, but really dive into some of the recommendations and local recommendations, regional recommendations, and talk a little bit about some steps forward for Guadalupe and for the region. We really did focus on a regional approach because broadband just doesn't know about boundaries and borders. So we did a lot of planning, like Margie said. One of the key pieces that I do touch on this, and I cannot stress enough, is that we're still collecting speed test data for Santa Barbara County. We're gonna continue to want to collect data on certain areas, as we continue to move forward with implementation. It's gonna be really important. So if I don't stress it in this PowerPoint presentation, I am stressing it now, and that can be found on the pcbroadband.org website. Anyway, so we're gonna go over the timeline, some of the summary, some of our local actions and next steps, and answering the questions you may have. So this is our timeline. It was very, very assertive, really fast for all the outreach and the work. Initially, when we started the project, we thought we would just be covering the county, and when we tagged on all the cities, I was thinking, oh, that's just gonna take a couple more months. Underestimated, but we're doing it, and we're gonna be completely done by the end of the year on time. So project highlights, for if everyone recalls or maybe doesn't recall, California Broadband for All was the lens that we looked through, and California Broadband for All has 3 goals: affordability, adoption to technology, and access. So to achieve some resiliency and redundancy and make sure that everyone has access at fast speeds. So what we did is we took the data, the stakeholders, we collected a bunch of data, put it into an open access GIS mapping tool that all the cities and SBCAG can have access to. We made sure that all the work and the lens we looked through was aligning with state and federal efforts. Again, if you recall, while we were doing this project, the Investment of Infrastructure and Jobs Act came out from the federal government, making sure that we were doing everything we needed to do to qualify for funding. We captured Guadalupe's status, and that 4th bullet, everyone wants reliable and available internet. That's kind of a yeah, duh statement, but at the same time, when you're looking at the data, that really, when you looked at a regional approach, that really summarized it. People want affordable and reliable internet, especially we learned that through COVID, that is the #1 priority. Guadalupe is well set to have broadband, to accept broadband, and there's more that will come on that. Here's a little bit of a snapshot of you can see a little bit of the data that we collected from the speed test, and why we want more from within the city limits and around the area helps as well. California Broadband for All, again, is 100 up, 100 down, minimum speeds of 100 download megabits per second from internet and 100 upload. And you can see on this slide that very few, if none, within city limits, there's maybe 7 or 8 that may be reaching that 100 download, but for the most part, there's an inconsistency across the town. So that would be something for consideration, why an additional data would be wanted as we look at how we would resolve that. Local actions for Guadalupe. Review, consider, adopt the plan. Partnerships are critical when we're talking about broadband. It's either partnerships with other municipalities, it's partnerships with internet service providers or telecommunications, as we call them, to look at, and really for and I don't need to tell you this, increasing capacity. Why we would want funding or partnerships is to increase staffing capacity and support for deployment, to do further analysis and deployment. Really would encourage the community to apply for the local agency technical assistance funding to assist with staffing, planning, and design work. Again, that can be done in partnership with SBCAG. None of this needs to be done alone. And then consider participating further. You've had the MOU agreements that got us to this point, would encourage you to continue to participate. Proposal potentially another layer of a JPA that SBCAG would coordinate to take over a lot of the planning and that last mile work to really connect Guadalupe internally, but also connect to all the other areas around, including Santa Maria, Lompoc, and then to the north into San Luis Obispo County. I won't go through every single one of these. There's a lot here. You can see under access. So access to the internet, again, that's still SBCAG coordinating, but this was unique to Guadalupe, and I really just want to draw your attention to this. One of the things we heard from the outreach is while there may be internet, and there is internet services in and throughout Guadalupe, for whatever reason, residences are having a difficult time accessing it. We can't tell if it's the quality of the wiring in the house. Is it the age of the homes? Is there something else that needs to be looked at? it may be of interest moving forward under some planning considerations, is that some sort of inventory is kept to understand what is that gap between the street or the internet provider and getting it to the house and into the home. Very unique. One of the things we found out here, if there's an opportunity to sort of just start tracking that and figure out what that issue is. So as these issues are trying to be resolved, we understand how we can get people connected. And really affordability adoption, those are pretty standard. One of the things that has come out of this planning project that you'll hear more about in the coming months is the Digital Equity Coalition. One of the things that we found out quickly is once you're talking about infrastructure, which this project was, you quickly start talking about the people. Really, why are we doing all this planning for infrastructure? It's to connect people. It's for people to connect them to the internet and close the digital divide. So we didn't wait until the strategy project was finished. We went ahead and started working with the Santa Barbara Foundation, even your Family Services Agency locally and others, to start propping up a digital equity coalition to start dealing with the adoption, learning how to use the internet, training, safety, access, all those pieces and equipment in tandem. So the Digital Equity Coalition is ramping up and will fully launch in early 2023 to support communities getting connected and getting what they need in regards to equipment as well. So again, that all that work isn't reliant on Guadalupe. That's through the SB Foundation, the Broadband Consortium will support, and as well as SB CAT. So this is all work that will benefit the region. And again, then locally redundancy and resiliency, partnering with SB CAT, do not stress that enough, is really allowing them to develop the capacity to make sure that this work is implemented at the local level. Staffing and then your elected officials on that far right bottom right hand yellow box is have that conversation. And if you recall, I talked about prioritizing broadband somewhere within your conversations in future planning, making sure that broadband stays in the forefront. Regional recommended regional actions, very similar, but just so you can see what we're sharing with everyone across, how we want to organize what that middle mile, last mile and adoption looks like. Those in green are basically in process and then work to be continued. As Margie mentioned, we are waiting to hear back on those LATA grants of LATA funding. They're going in front of the CPUC on early December. Next steps between now and Q4. So now in 2023, some considerations for Guadalupe. Review the document, take some time, figure out what you want to adopt, if anything, and adopt any of the recommendations, have those conversations with SB CAT, try to find out what we can do to continue to support Guadalupe. Identify a staff member, and pretty much it's been Shannon, but really we need to continue to have a staff member to remain in contact with as Caltrans and the state of California build their middle mile open access network. There are aspects of it that will come very close, if not into Guadalupe, and it's going to be important that we maintain in conversation and understand where those intersections are going to be. California, we were on a 3-hour webinar today. The state is asking us to ask our cities to please stay engaged in that conversation so that we can get that work done. They're planning on having it completed by 2027, 2028. Really important. If that's the only thing we do, then we're doing absolutely really well. So thank you. Determine the feasibility of the recommendations. Are those something that you even want to move forward with? Highly recommend continuing to engage with local ISPs. There's actually several around the area. We can follow up with you later on who to communicate with and regarding what their plans might be in increasing access. Again, competition is going to drive the affordability. So you are going to see other service providers potentially entering the market within the next 4 or 5 years. Everyone's running right now to invest. We'll see. That's what it's looking like right now. Highly encourage Guadalupe to participate again in that regional model and join the JPA as possible and to support SB CAT so they can really carry the load on that implementation work effort. And again, council, you determine the priorities, so hopefully you'll have the information that you need to start, going through it and asking more questions. Consortium's happy to help. SBCAG's happy to help and make sure that we want to lead you down the right path. And again, Q4, it depends on what we do in early 2023. We'll decide how we end up the year and what we're going to do in 2024. This is long run planning. It's fast, but there's work to do. So that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions. I'm sure there will be follow-up discussions with staff, but I'm happy to answer any questions right now.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the audience?
Oh, one.
Yes,
Is the priority fiber or the cable?
I love that question.
can you repeat that question, Sophie?
Is the priority fiber or is the priority cable? California and the federal government are prioritizing fiber.
All the way.
Fiber is faster, it's more reliable, it's what they want to invest in. Then the state has already been working on procurement and making sure that they've got what they need to build what they're planning to build. So it's fiber, and where it's not feasible for fiber, there's potential for point-to-point wireless.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I work on fibers.
Okay.
You wanted to-
Oh, yes.
Each one there was
It's a plug, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just had a comment regarding SBCAG and what every city that in the Thunder Bay County goes through what we hear what's working and what you all are doing, and we appreciate the city does, because we couldn't do this on our own, and none of the cities could. None of the Southern California cities could, so we appreciate you coming to Guadalupe to keep us updated. So, but if there are no other questions, thank you, and enjoy your trip back.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Happy election night. I'm going to campaign parties.
Okay.
My favorite nights of the year.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Excuse me, Mayor, would this be a good time to introduce our new HR?
Sure.
Mayor and City Council, staff, public, I want to introduce you to our new HR manager, Ted Butler. Ted, you want to say a few words?
Sure, happy to be here, thank you. Disclosure, thank you very much, everyone. I was told that we had a long meeting today and I wanted to filibuster, but I guess that's not gonna be in the plans today. So I just want to say happy to be here, very hard, and thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Oh, and I hope everyone voted.
Very good. All right, next item is community participation. I have one request to speak, but that's item 11. That's from Dennis. That's on the agenda anyway. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on a topic that's not agendized? If not, we'll go to item 6, which is consent calendar. Following items are presented to the council and approval without discussion. Is there a council member that wishes to pull an item for this further discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
Mayor, I just want to mention that there's just a typo in the contract planning director's agreement, but it doesn't have to be pulled. It's just a typo. I just want to emphasize that.
What is that typo? Is it money wise or? Is it?
Oh, it's just a term.
The contract's a 1-year contract, but it says 1-year contract that runs for 2 years, that it ends in December 2024. That's a typo. It should be 2023. So we'll fix that.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I see only Gigi. I don't know if they want to listen. I see Alejandro there.
Is Alejandro here?
Yeah, I see Alejandro. I don't know if Alejandro, you wanted to speak on Los Amigos de Guadalupe report, or was it another item?
It's in the monthly report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the monthly report if you want. They
Well,
can speak if you want them to.
I'm just wondering.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second? I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes, thank you. So thank you for indulging us in moving item 10, 11 in front of the 9, so first. So the regular, consider entering item 10, which is now 9. Sorry, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I always forget that one. City Administrator's report, thank you.
Oh, let's see, you caught me off guard.
Okay.
I might mention something later about the discussion in future agenda items for the Central Park final conceptual design. There's kind of a tight time frame, so want to just maybe talk about what would be a good time. And if you want to combine that with a Recreation and Parks Commission, there are only 3 members on the board. It might take, to get those other ones on the board, it might push us past the window of time to have a joint meeting with a full group there, so. Just wanted to throw that out in the next.
What is the time?
We're looking to move to possibly January 24th for a City Council Recreation Commission meeting, joint meeting. If that would work for you.
But that's the timeline, so that,
Yeah.
that's the deadline. You looking at Shannon, to the,
Go ahead, Jen.
Unfortunately, I don't have the construction schedule with me at this time.
Yeah, you probably have a better handle on it than I do.
All right, the issue we have is making sure that we meet, ultimately, the grant requirement and the end of the grant performance period is June 30th of 2025. The design consultant has put together a Gantt chart that has the schedule, and there is not a lot of wiggle room in the schedule in order to continue to push off the determination of the conceptual design. If we do, we start eating into our time contingency for construction. Right now, if we had our meeting on January 10th, the projection is that construction would be finished in January of 2025, leaving us with only 5 months of wiggle room for any problems that might occur during construction. I will tell you that some of the troubles that we're having with construction right now are switchgear ordering and delivery are 6 to 9 months out. So, I mean, we're really struggling still with supply chain issues. So any pushing off of this step just risks not being able to meet the delivery date of the grant itself.
so my question would be the rationale for having a joint meeting. That's the trigger, and then we move forward from that, so,
And there is no requirement that that be a joint meeting.
okay,
The 3 options that are worth considering are first, not having a meeting with Recreation Commission at all, which is entirely an option. Number 2, have a meeting with Recreation Commission in January and hold the meeting with City Council on I guess the 24th of January, which would work because then Recreation Commission would be able to see
Make
it
a
prior
recommendation.
to City Council, but of course, it would only be 3 members. I do not believe that the schedule provides us enough wiggle room to wait until Recreation Commission is fully staffed prior to doing the selection of the conceptual design.
well, prior to the Recreation Commission, we were the commission and made a decision. I think we need input from them, so if they're able to do that, we can meet and schedule it.
Okay,
Without
I'm
a
only
joint
looking over to Hannah to see if a meeting with Recreation Commission then can occur prior to the January 24th meeting. So the only, it's an unusual day to hold the Recreation Commission on January 2nd, just because of the holidays. So it would be a special meeting of the
Okay,
Recreation Commission.
so we have time to discuss it.
Um,
You- what's this?
I was just gonna say, what about in this month? It can't. Second meeting this month.
The original date was December 10th, December 13th, whatever the meeting is in
First
December,
meeting in December.
December 13th. That was the original date that the design consultant was going to present it to City Council. But there is no opportunity for Recreation Commission to see it prior to that.
Unless you had a special meeting.
Well, why can't they present that to us anyway without the commission?
That is,
I think we need.
Up to
I
you,
think we
if you
need to
wish.
Do that.
if you wish, I can see if they're still able to do December 13th, and if not, we'll do January 10th. And it'll simply be city council, is that?
I think we should do that. You do December.
I won't do
Hmm.
You can still be a citizen.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, well-
It's a new. Swearing in.
That's what's on
So-
there, so.
Well, let's work it out, then we'll
Okay.
figure out a date.
So it sounds like the direction is move forward without a recreation commission meeting and simply present the design to city council.
Yeah, I think if we have reports and updates from the commission in terms of what they want to see, then we can go forward.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. We finished, Todd, anything else?
Not from that item.
Well, any other item?
No, not or other.
Okay. We'll go to item 8, Public Director of Public Safety Report. Chief Cash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and citizens. Only got 2 items. These were issues brought up by council last meeting for us to look into. One is attached. It's regarding the property at 333 Guadalupe Street. Fire Captain Schmidt went out and did an inspection concerning the fence issue. So we have all the information there, and that was attached with what that evaluation came up with. So and that's for council review. And the other one was regarding utility trailers and vehicles that non-motorized vehicles that were parked throughout the city that our councilman brought up. At first I was looking through the vehicle code, couldn't find anything, but thanks to our guru of code compliance, our city attorney, who kind of helps spur that. We do have a specific ordinance within the Guadalupe Muni Code that would give us the authority to move those vehicles, and it's not a 72 hours. So it's if they will put it out there, they have to complete everything within 72 hours. But we could go by and tag or tow or whatever. So right now, working with the fire department and our code compliance to put together a operational plan of how we can do that throughout the city. So that's my report. If there's any questions.
Now, the CUP, your report on the fencing, that's coming back to us.
I believe Mr.
Because you have
Scott said,
specific information about the fencing that we were concerned with.
yes, our information that I had the captain get was
Right.
specifically on the fence.
Sure, thank you. That's good information.
It was.
Okay, you good, Chief?
Yes, sir. That is it.
All right, now the item 10, Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me? Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. So tonight you're going to consider entering into a community benefit lease agreement by and between the City of Guadalupe and the Boys and Girls Club, DBA Boys and Girls Club of Mid Central Coast. Just a little history. The Boys and Girls Club of Mid Central Coast was founded in 1966. Boys and Girls Club of Mid Central has a strong reputation for providing safe, educational and fun programs for local youth between the ages of 6 and 18. The Boys and Girls Club focus on providing programs to the youth and teens who need them most. Programs are designed to achieve priority outcomes of lifetime success in 3 main areas: education, character, and health. It's been told and widely recognized that in Guadalupe is estimated that 37% of the city's population is under the age of 18. And Mayor, I think you have mentioned that several times in meetings. So with a population that high, it's very important that we have a program to offer them, and they have been here in the past. Since 1998, they provided sports leagues in the existing Leroy Park building that's now renovated.
And of course, that what needed to happen, and the city procured a grant. Just over $5 million to repair and remodel and completely renovate that facility. Now, over the course of 2.5 years, a committee has been formed to actually work with the Boys and Girls Club to come up with either an MOU or a lease agreement. And have come to the conclusion that in a lease terms, that we would have the first 10 years go to 2023 and then 10-year options after that. The Boys and Girls Club will put in about $10,000 per month for all the anticipated pay for all the utilities and those kinds of expenses. And they also will upgrade and put about $60,000 in network, wireless access points, surveillance, security systems, and key safe. And basically, they will be managing and doing the maintenance obligations for the inside of the facility, and just a number of different things, keeping up all the interior janitorial and all those kinds of items. The city will maintain and be responsible for the physical structure of the facility. The fiscal impact in general, it's been sort of stated that although the city is not receiving any rent from this, it is the committee's belief that the Boys and Girls Club lease for this facility will meet certain criteria to ensure a mutually beneficial partnership of providing services to those 37%. It is understood that the city will not achieve a dollar for dollar cost recovery, but many believe that the value of the services provided by the Boys and Girls Club will exceed the fair market value of the rent at the property. There's more details in the report, but I just want to give that short summary. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw Roberto back there. See, you want to come up? Or whoever else. I saw Michael there too. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here. This has been a long process, probably 2 years, 1.5 years, 2 years that we've been going through this, and I know that there's been back and forth negotiations in terms of bullet points, the rent, the service, the amount of resources that you're putting in, the staffing. The city penciled out what it would cost to run the program in terms of the utilities and stuff like that. So why don't you go ahead and tell us we have an agreement before us. So what are your bullet points? How are you going to benefit the city?
Well, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Michael Boyer. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. Well, really, bottom line is, we're planning on serving over 100 kids there every day, and then also keeping the center open for other community activities as needed, and then managing that community center for the benefit of the city here. So that's really kind of the bottom line. We will run sports leagues out of there just like we have in the past. We'll have full-time staff there. The center will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the weekdays and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. There will be evening activities, and if the community center needs to be rented, we will have staff and custodial there to support that rental and so on. So we're really there to hopefully have that center used as much as possible by the citizens of Guadalupe.
Question from the council. Go ahead.
So you mentioned that there's gonna be management of the building.
Mhm.
How can residents access that building if they need to schedule an event? Is it gonna be through our recreation manager, or will that be solely going to your office?
It'll be both. We'll have a partnership in that. And really, every month we'll provide a report to the recreation services manager that shows the rentals for the next 90 days. People will be able to go on our website and see the availability. They'll be able to register right on our website to say, I want this specific day and this specific time. But really, we're going to run that type of rental management based on the city's process that they want, right? That we will, change our process to be able to really work as a partnership,
So would they be coming to our office to schedule that, or would they be coming to the Boys and Girls Club to do the schedule?
Well, they could call directly to Leroy Park and schedule that also. So, I mean, we would be the initial manager. I don't think that the veteran services manager will have the time to manage all of those rentals over the course of our agreement.
Okay, and then. So, and then the funding for this, would that be in a sort of fund to manage the building for the maintenance, or would that be coming to the city? Or to the
Not sure.
organization?
What type of,
So for rental.
Huh?
Rental, funding, that's gonna, whatever,
the revenue?
yes,
Yeah, that all goes to the city. I mean, we'll have a small cost for custodial for
right,
rental, but
But any
it
other.
really comes down to, that's city revenue. We're managing the building based on, really the city's policy of rental. And it's really up to the city to say, well, this is how much we want to charge. This is for each type of rental, right? It's not really our purview. We're just facilitating that rental.
yeah, I guess,
And providing our own custodial and also providing people on site to ensure the safety of the building.
So one quick example about that is if we have like a quinceañera being done on a Saturday, that would all go through this to the city, saying they have the ability to rent it, they pay for their services. And we need to supply the staffing for that day and for the custodial. And then that's all we'll cover it, and the rest of that field end up in the city's rental facilities revenue. Charter.
okay, yeah, that, I was just wondering, because under the agreement, if there was I was just unclear about that. Tenant shall receive, establish a reserve maintenance fund, and I wasn't sure if that was part of the,
So that doesn't have anything to do with the rental.
okay,
We've already established a maintenance fund that's managed by our foundation.
mhm,
And that's an amount, I mean, we talked about a significant amount to cover maintenance over time, just to ensure that people realize that we're investing into this building. Far and above the capital investments we're making into the building.
What is your staffing? Can you explain a little bit about your staffing that you're gonna have there? Because I know you're making a significant investment in employees.
Yes, so typically we staff at a 20-to-1 ratio. So for every 20 students we have 1 staff member. So typically for a building this size, we would have staffed about 100 kids. So 5 staff directly working with you. 1 assistant club director that's there managing the kids not in ratio, and then the club director who's in charge of the total operation of the club. So just to start off right off the bat, we would be starting with 7 staff members there. 1 of them would be full-time, 1 would be close to about 28 hours a week, and all the others would be about 20 to 25 hours a week, depending on our services that we'd be offering.
And typically in this situation, Roberto's really talking about staff members who are serving kids right now. But we also will have to have a rover who does vacations and so on and so forth. People that we have quite a few staff members already in Guadalupe because we have 2 other club sites here. So we'll be able to have, some real flexibility to bring more staff online if more staff is needed. And we can serve more than 100 kids at that site. It just depends on the need from the community.
I think in the past, there was, if we had a basketball league here and a basketball league there, but apparently, not apparently, but working with our staff, with Hannah and our recreation staff people, that's that coordination that'll happen to where
Right.
all of the cities will be used, to benefit the kids, so.
For sure.
Any other questions?
Just real quick. I myself also work at the school and I know some of your staff has been working with the ACES program. Are you guys gonna still continue having staff there to help that area along with Lever Park?
Yes, yeah, we'll continue to have serve kids at the schools also. And there's other funding opportunities with the school district. There's also other programs now with the school district that it's highly likely will continue to support and grow those programs also.
We've talked before about, we've had issues even, well, just after we opened with monitoring the area. And when there's a facility that's, nobody's there's a tendency for people to start throwing rocks and doing their dastardly deeds. So I know that you've talked about a monitoring system, monitoring in terms of the area. So how's that gonna work? Is that, do you have any plans for that, or do you have any?
Yeah, we will definitely, I mean, we'll put a surveillance system
There you
in inside and outside. We have that in all of our own, in all of the clubs we own. Primarily for the safety of the kids, as well as other public safety issues. Typically, I mean, you can read our safety policies on our website. I have a 3-page policy just on video surveillance. But just a little bit of information about that. We save all of the video and audio for 6 months. So that we can go back, depending on if public safety needs access to that information, or really any type of situation that comes about, right? But there's other, I mean, we also want to ensure the safety of the facility itself. So we'll want to make some minor adjustments to how, from a security standpoint, how we enter the building, right? Because we want to ensure that it's not a target for first-person shooters and stuff like that. So there's definitely some additional investment we'll be making with the facility.
Now, in your regular operation days as a Boys and Girls Club, you have a system to where people have to check in. Adults can't just walk in, which is a safety factor for the kids. That's required by you all, and that's a big thing.
Yes. Yeah, and just, I mean, you all have been in this building. When you go into the double doors, we will have an additional door that you have to be buzzed in after you've already proven who you are.
Okay.
Right, and so there's just some things like that that are essential to ensuring the safety of individual kids versus and all of the kids. And just to be really clear, I mean, if there's a family that one parent has the ability to pick up a child and the other doesn't, we need to be able to address those issues very quickly.
Good point. I see Hannah over there. Hey,
I have a question.
go ahead. All right.
Yeah, so after councilwoman over here had a few questions, I am a little confused on a process. One of the processes being is, let's take an example. I want to rent the facility. I'm walking in. Where am I walking in to rent this facility? Am I doing it with y'all, or am I doing it with City Hall? Is it both? And how would I know that? And that might be a question for both of you, if that's.
I mean, we haven't really come up with the specific process. In the agreement, it says we'll work hand in hand on a monthly basis to establish those processes, for sure. But in our mind, we're managing it on behalf of the city, right? And so in our mind, you would come to Leroy Park to rent Leroy Park. Right.
I think for that process, I definitely, whatever the process is decided on, it needs to be clear for like the public to be able to understand how that goes. And have it on the website, have it, and then bounce it back and forth, between the two, just because I feel like, I rented facilities before in the past, and I feel like it should be like clearly easy, because our people are just gonna end up giving up at one point or another, or if you all don't know that process, and we start, like, when do we hand the keys to you to the start? If it has it.
Oh, they're there.
Or you're there already, okay, so yes, so I guess now we just need to figure out the process, like yesterday. To see how that works.
Yeah, and I'll, one of the things also is the process of what you need for the event, right? So if you're renting the facility for an event, like you said, yeah, that's gonna go one way, right?
Yeah.
If you need to, come into the buildings, you wanna run a sports league, or you wanna do wrestling, or you wanna do something else, that's gonna be another process, because that's, the actual building, but it's a different type of, service, right? It's a service to you, or is it like a rental on a Saturday, right? That would be, those are gonna be different processes. So making sure that we're running the process at, what we really wanna say is we're running at the process of what the city wants us to run those processes at, how they wanna handle that. They wanna make sure we're following their policy when it comes to that, unless our policy supersedes that in the sense of safety.
Yeah.
It's the only way we wanna take that process.
Awesome. I would hate for it to turn into where, like, for example, let's say Amelia has a re-retirement party. And I am leaving the council party, and we both booked it on the same day. I show up, like, what are you doing here?
We have the software and calendaring for, facilities management. We manage 7 facilities right now, so we do this in lots of different scenarios. And so we have that software that we can use that would make that situation possible. Having said that, like I said in the beginning, we're going to run it based on what how the city wants us to run, right? It's really not our purview, like I said before. It's not, we're not making the decisions on how the rental process happens, right? Or the cost or any of that. That's really the city's, so the city is telling us, well, you need to run it this way, this way.
So question, I guess, for Mr. Cinco, does that need to be outlined in our agreement?
I would say no.
No,
No.
so just as it's vaguely stated.
Yeah.
Because it's just a partnership and that's it.
Lawyer's right, it clearly provides that the city's in control of the rental process and coordination, so it doesn't have to be spelled out for this legal agreement.
And I think over time, it will probably change, right? And the city will tell us, well, we have to change this, this and that. So I would imagine that we would then make those changes.
I think the elephant in the room is the one no cost in lieu of. And we've talked before about this, the expenses that you're already having to make regarding staff training, and so how do you justify to us no rent in lieu of rent?
Well, we're serving your kids at our own expense. Right? That's what we're doing. We're not asking you all to pay for that service. We're also putting right now about $78,000 into the building currently, as well as putting $100,000 of our own money into a fund for maintenance of the building. So I would imagine, with that, we are committing, in my mind, for the next 50 years to serve the kids as well as we can.
Any other questions from the council? Staff? Hannah, any question?
So with the newly renovated center, that room to the right, is there gonna be, are you guys changing up? Is there new activities going on? Is that an art room? Is that something we didn't have before? My son actually worked there about 10 years ago as a gym director, and I've coached many youth basketball teams, and we have plenty of games right out of that center. And I mean, you're getting a brand new building. I mean, from the ground up, it's very beautiful. And I mean, it's just something like, are you guys adding new activities, or would you utilize that room, or is that room gonna be used, or?
Which room, are you the one right when you come in the right?
Right to the right.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did, if you go back to when we first had the facility, is we had another space in the back as well. It was an art room as well. And the left that was knocked down, that wasn't rebuilt. So we're actually in less space as we're speaking currently today. So yeah, that room will be utilized with homework help after school, STEM labs, STEM activities, art projects, so yeah, we'll definitely be utilizing that room, it'll be a multi-use room, where we're using it for a lot more different things than just one specific, area, I guess, to say.
And I know in the past, years ago, there was also a computer lab. Is that still on the table or how's that?
That would fit in within our STEM programming, with our technology programming that we have, that'll come in. Right now, we have at our other centers, we do have computer access to all of our students, Wi-Fi access. Actually monitor the Wi-Fi access as well in our centers. So yeah, they'll be able to utilize that space the same way that all of our other centers do.
Yeah, and we'll be putting in a public Wi-Fi network in there as well as a monitored Wi-Fi network in there.
Hannah, you,
The only comment I have is on facility rentals, and I think with Liliana and Antonio's concerns, I think my only concern is that there's gonna be a lot of confusion. There's already kind of confusion as it is with facility rentals as where people are supposed to go, so I think if we add in, oh, well, you can go to Leroy or you can go to City Hall, I think that's gonna be too confusing. And I don't know if you guys are aware that we actually do have a facility rental coordinator, that's her sole job, is she just works on working with anybody that wants to rent out a facility, so that's not really a concern of mine as far as if I'm gonna have enough time to do it, because that's something that she does. I think, again, because we don't have to have it specifically outlined, that'd just be something that we would figure out together later. But I think it would be easier to just have it done through the city, and then from there, if you guys have anybody that is like a wrestling group or a basketball league, then that's where we would direct them to go to Leroy Park and talk to one of you guys about that. That's my.
So like for clarification, per se, for recreation intention would be to contact the Boys and Girls Club.
it sounds like that'll be worked out.
And I think in both of those situations, we'll need to know about it because we'll be providing the staff on site in both situations.
So it's tightly coordinated between city and, yeah.
Yeah,
very tight.
we'll have to be on the same calendar, so
Yeah.
if you're already using the system, we'll either have to have access to the system that you use to rent. So for example, if it's a Google Calendar that says X date is rented on by this person, Boys and Girls will have staffing from this time to that time. Like currently, we rent our facility as well, and we have a procedure where the person that's in charge of the rental for that day, say it's me, we have a 15-minute like check-in window. Every 15 minutes you go in there and there's gotta be a form filled out that says, I checked in with the renters, here's what's going on, right? 15 minutes all day long. If there's an event outside and there's alcohol at the event, I walked around, make sure no minors were drinking alcohol, right? Or I notified the security guards, how many security guards you have to have for a quinceañera wedding, or things like that. So we do have a process that we would definitely want to work with you guys to make sure that the reason for having that process is to make sure that we keep that building looking the same way it looks today.
Another question, in the past, Roberto, did the Boys and Girls Club rent out for quinceañeras and
The club
weddings?
never rented it out.
Never, right?
It was in our stipulation that we couldn't sublease it or rent it in our original lease. No.
Okay, yeah, because I don't recall for the years that I've ever seen a quinceañera there or anything like that.
I think the only time our facility got used was for other nonprofit events, for other activities when
I think we had the banquet for the Bulldogs there one year.
the things like that, got utilized, but we never rented it.
Okay, back to the council. Anybody out in the audience have anything to say or would like to comment on what we're talking about? No hands yet. Back to the council. This- Okay, come on up.
I guess my concern is, that everyone
Why
has.
don't you,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
TV band. Thank you. I guess my concern is that everyone has equal access. And how are we going to make sure that happens? Someone shows up at Leroy Park and asks, can I rent the building? And 15 minutes later, someone comes to the city and asks, and you have people for the same date, and
So I agree with Hannah that it needs to be one point of contact for renters. And my other question is, if you're using it from 1 to 4 on Saturdays, how are people going to be able to rent? Thank you.
Obviously, the 1 to 4 Saturdays will be planned on, it's 9 to 1, but whether it will be planned on ahead of time, right? So if there's a rental that's being utilized or doesn't make revenue for the city, we'll definitely move our plans. What's going on from 9 to 1.
And really, clearly, the 9 to 1 on Saturday is not Boys and Girls Club program. It's just a community center open to the public from 9 to 1.
Okay.
We have a staff, we have custodial during that time, but we don't have any programs happening on Saturday.
In regarding the coordination, you have 3 people right there that can sit and talk about the actual structure in terms of how that's gonna happen, so there's no miscommunication, so. That's my feeling. What wishes the council on the resolution? Or any further discussion?
I move to motion, resolution 2022-99.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Robles.
Aye.
Mayor Julian.
Aye, all ayes. Thank you. Appreciate your time. All right. Now we go to Guadalupe Farmers Market, Hannah.
Okay, so I'll start with a little bit of background. So various groups within Guadalupe have been working over the years to find a way to provide the city with a farmers market. One of the groups is an organization referred to as FRESA. FRESA has spent a couple of years researching and documenting the feasibility of a farmers market in Guadalupe. They are also involved in advocating for quality food access in northern Santa Barbara County. Guadalupe now has a working group to do the work of getting the farmers market going that is separate from FRESA. However, FRESA and this group will be working together on the farmers market. The working group will give regular updates on their progress to FRESA at their monthly meetings. It is still a question whether the Guadalupe market will operate independently or under the umbrella of Route 1. The working group has tentatively named the farmers market Cosecha Guadalupe. Located in the attachments is Cosecha Guadalupe's proposal for the farmers market. The working group has tentatively, the group is requesting the support from the city of the farmers market in a few ways. First, they are requesting that they be allowed to use the Veterans Memorial Plaza free of charge. Secondly, they are requesting that the city allow the market access to the electricity and water free of charge. Finally, they are requesting that they be allowed to keep a porta potty on site year round as they are rented by the month. An additional request, if possible, is that the city pay for the cost of a porta potty rental. City staff recommends that the farmers market be held at Leroy Park rather than Veterans Memorial Plaza. By using the plaza, it would limit the use of the free vehicle charging station and parking whenever the farmers market happens. There's also a question of who would be the ones to block off the Veterans Memorial Plaza, because it would have to be blocked off and signs would have to be put out, most likely, I'm assuming the night before, if they want the entire parking lot free. If Leroy was used, the parking on site would be designated specifically for the event. This would allow residents and visitors to still utilize the downtown parking to visit local businesses. This would mitigate possible traffic congestion or accidents. It would also provide a safe spot for children to be able to play. So if families want to come to the farmers market and bring their kids, there wouldn't be any concern of that they could run out onto the street. They would be safe on, there would also be the playground available for them to be able to use. Additionally, there would be no need to rent a portable restroom as there are outdoor restrooms on site. Excuse me, sorry, the recommendation is that city council chooses from one of the following options. Allow Cosecha Guadalupe access to the Veterans Memorial Plaza free of charge, including use of utilities. Or prorate rental fees and utilities for Cosecha Guadalupe's use of Veterans Memorial Plaza. Allow Cosecha Guadalupe access to Leroy Park free of charge, including use of utilities, or prorate rental fees and utilities for Cosecha Guadalupe's use of Leroy.
Okay, I have one request to speak, Mr. Appel, Apple, Dennis. Anybody else like to speak after him? They're more than welcome. Good evening, Dennis.
Thanks so much. So I spent some time with Hannah. We went over some things. She'd asked that I write up proposals to give to staff, which I did, and that's included in your little presentation here. I was surprised by a couple of things myself in the staff recommendations, but I think more than anything, I just would like to maybe bring up a couple questions regarding the staff recommendation, and also just be available to answer questions if council has any questions. So I was a little surprised about the staff recommendation to move down to Leroy Park, although I understand from Hannah the considerations and why the staff might recommend that. There's also some pretty strong reasons to have it downtown, right on Highway 1, but we don't have to go into that. We want a farmer's market, so the city provides a space for that. That would be great. Regarding the costs to the city, I was a little bit unclear on a couple of the costs, and I'll just say what they were, and then maybe staff can explain to me or to you. But there's $100 deposit, cleaning fee, and $60 for each time use. It comes to $640 a month. That's a surprise to me, but if that's what the city needs, that's what the city needs. The porta potty, and if you look in my document, it was just an opportunity for the city to buy in on the cost of a porta potty that is in the Veterans Plaza all month long. I'm not really requesting the city to do that. It would make things a lot easier, but we have other, as you see in the proposal, there's other possibilities in the community for helping with funding for that. The Guadalupe Farmers Market is not a big financial benefit to anybody. The farmers market is not going to make anybody much money. It's just a really good, event for the community, and that's where we're coming from on it. All the work that's been done this for 2 years by Fresa and Los Amigos de Guadalupe and myself. It's all been done for free because we want to see a farmers market. Some of these cost figures would be prohibitive for a farmers market, I think, at least what I researched so far. But mostly I want to ask about the utilities, because I sort of don't understand how the farmers market would use $12 per hour of electricity. Our home for 30 days used $24 in electricity. It's just hard to imagine how that would happen. I would personally like an explanation of how that figure was used. Also $100 per month for water. I think it might be a typo, because when you add up the total sum cost of $1,067.95 for a month, it seems like that was $100 per day of water and $400 per month. So in any case, I really I really want to question, I don't want the city to make a decision based on what it might cost the city. If I feel like it's probably not gonna cost anywhere close to $4,722 for 6 months to the city. I don't think that's the case. It would be very helpful to us if the city were willing to take staff recommendation 1 or 3, which both waives any fees for the farmers market. And that's pretty much it, and I'm open to questions.
I'll bring it, thank you, Dennis. Discussions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For Shannon or Hannah. So. Are our electrical. For utilities, because we're a city, are they higher than as those of a resident? Because I know businesses pay more than residential.
I thank you for your question. The rates for various areas throughout the city for the public areas all depend on the kind of use it is. So that's not, there is no one size fits all. It all depends on what if it's lighting or if it's so we have some that are medium business. We have they're all over the place.
Okay, so that's where the $12 comes in on the.
I mean, that was one thing that Shannon and I were trying to work out, but what's difficult about it is that water and electricity both are hard to just estimate. It's more off of usage and that sort of thing. So it was just our best guesstimate as how much it would be, because there was no information provided as far as like, since they haven't already started doing it, they haven't been able to record what the usage was and be able to provide that to us. So it was more just a guesstimate than anything.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so on that, how much water would you guys be using, do you think?
Well, the farmers market is required to have both bathroom facilities and hand washing facilities with hot water for all the vendors. The farmers market is not required by law to have those available for the public to come shopping there. So it would just be for the vendors. And we talked to Guys Pizza, who said you can use our bathroom. But I would like to not have to rely on one of the neighbors, even though it's a kind offer. I'd like it to be self-contained. Who knows how much longer Two Guys Pizza is going to be there. But so it would basically be enough water for one of the vendors, of which there'd probably be six produce vendors and maybe another 6 other vendors like flowers or baked goods or something. It would be like 12 vendors, enough water to wash their hands if they needed to wash their hands. I've been to the farmers market now a couple times in Vandenberg Village, and nobody's washing their hands really. They just don't need to. They wear the gloves. But in any case, I think water usage would be minimal. The electricity usage, I had envisioned having a portable vanity with a sink with hot running water, which would necessitate a small electric water heater inside the vanity, which would need to be plugged in. I don't anticipate that would use much electricity. The big electricity usage would be if we wanted to have music, because it has outlets there. It would be nice to be able to have a DJ or a band or something festive that could plug in and use amps in the gazebo. So those are what I would imagine would be the use of electricity.
Shannon, is there a way to put like a meter like they do on the fire hydrants on a figure or something somewhere where they can monitor the usage.
Okay, so if we had a fire hydrant there, we would put a construction meter on it, which would be our way of being able to tell how much water is used. I would have to do some research to find out if one can just put on a standard. Again, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. The other way to do that would be to take a meter reading before and after the event in order to determine how much water is used during the event, which might be the easier way to do it.
Okay.
Question on this side? Comments? I have quite a few, so you guys go ahead. Go for it. So,
The rental fees that were discussed right here, Hannah, these are part of the master plan, right? The master fee schedule, sorry, master fee schedule. So they're not like numbers that we just magically made up. So it's part of our master fee schedule. So this is the rate that nonprofits pay for our, I'm looking here just to make sure, the nonprofits are what they pay for their usage of our facilities. So there's different rates. There's one for like residents, there's one for non-residents, like of the city. And then there's also other ones that were like nonprofit as well as people who are like business, a straight up business or something, or like an organization. So that's where that.
Just out of curiosity, would those fees apply whether it was Veterans Plaza or Leroy Park?
The Leroy Park, I did not include because that was something that I was gonna come back to you guys on, with the workshop for that, because currently the Leroy Park fees, I think, are the same as senior center, which I don't think really, especially with the renovation, is accurate of what we should be charging. So that's why I was gonna come back with that, but I didn't include it because it's not, yeah.
Yeah. But every facility will have their own rate. Yes, they answer your question. Every facility will have like their own breakdown of what it costs to operate.
I understand.
Because I have, first of all, on the, one of the recommendations is to actually use Veterans Park, Veterans Memorial Building, and the purpose of what you're doing is to provide food to local residents, vegetables. To provide.
Yeah, that's very high on our priority. Is to
That's
have
why you're having it.
good local produce available for all the residents of Guadalupe, including those who would need to use EBT to purchase that.
And my preference for Veterans Memorial is because you've got all of our apartments they've got 76 units there. You've got apartments over here on this side to where you're walking distance to the park, not the park, but the memorial parking lot. So to me, that has to be, the program offered has to be in the middle of town. That's my preference. And you're suggesting that too.
Well, I am. I don't want to, I want to suggest that I'm opposed to Leroy Park, but
I'm just telling my suggestion is to keep it there because it's easier. Any of the farmers markets use the parking lot. They, you have Vandenberg, you have even Orchid, you have Lompoc, they use the parking lot. Because it's asphalt and it's this one would be central to, to people walking. Because you have a lot of apartments around this area. The second, the other issue in terms of, it's not an issue. Are these farmers are these people that are selling, are they being charged?
Yes. So the way the farmers market works is the vendors come in, they sell their produce, and whatever their take is, the market itself gets 5% of what they sell.
Okay,
So
this group, you get 5%, okay.
5% of what they sell. So it's not a large amount of money, but it's enough to be a manager, minimum wage or.
The other thing with, I haven't been to a lot of farmers markets, but I haven't seen a lot of significant use of electrical. They just have their canopies, they have their booths, and then I don't see any power going to these things unless you have the corn, what's it called, the caramel corn type popper. I don't know if you're gonna have that or not, but typically the farmers market to me, don't use power.
Yeah, generally the farmer's market does not use power. In our case, the Vanderburg Village has a little, has a little generator.
Right, yeah.
And they use that to do a little speaker system so they can play music. And we could do that.
See, that's also, that's an alternative as opposed to using the city. And the water usage, like you say, is a matter of vanity to where it's not open. It's for the vendors. Now, the other thing, and I'm going all over the place, but porta potty, personally, I don't see the city participating in that. Who should participate in that is the GBA. I'm glad to be Business Association, because that's going to bring people into that area. Because you're not going to just focus on Guadalupe, because you have Trilogy that would want to come down. You have other folks in this area that would want to come down for produce, because it would be good produce. So I see the, you know, when they come into town, they're going to see the different venues that we have, the restaurants and things like that. Eventually, the gymnasium that you're going to see, the Guadalupe, what's it called, the wine grotto, the Guadalupe Social Club. So there's things that the pizza place, all these other things that you can see, eventually a Royal Theater. So I'm just pushing that. It's not just Guadalupe, you're going to have other people coming in. And regarding the parking lot, when we do the food bank here, we put the barriers up on the side of the street. And what you would do is you put the barriers up and say, here, no parking this date. If you're here in this parking lot during that time, you're going to get towed. It's not a big deal. You put a couple barriers up. Some of the neighbors near the senior center, we actually put them near the sidewalk. And on Thursday, they put them out in the morning to where we don't have to do that. So there's not very little labor intensive in terms of putting a couple of the barriers up to where people won't park there. And on a regular basis, people will know, don't go there Saturday at a particular time because, they're going to have a, farmer's market there. The only issue, it wouldn't even be an issue is the H2A food preparation trucks there that sometimes use that. But the neighborly thing to do is to let them know, and you would, that somebody's gonna be there selling. I know that we've, a couple weeks ago, we discussed the fees, city fees. There's the Lions Club, the Comité, who else is free? And Kiwanis is free of use, so there's three. And those basically are set in terms of free. I'm looking at the intent of what you're trying to do. Well, not you, but what the program is trying to do is provide healthy food for local residents, to where they can actually use their cards to purchase food. So I would think that there needs to be some adjustment in terms of what your purpose is. I would think too, that perhaps, and looking at your agreement, is to say, perhaps after we do 1 year, after a 1 year study of what you're doing, where are you financially? As opposed to just hitting you with a big expense right at the top while you're trying to get going. I know that you said you're gonna donate your time and money to that, but you shouldn't have to do that on your own. That I think the city should participate in some level to make that happen, because you're serving Guadalupe residents. I'm chattering. Any other comments? So my feeling is that it should be at Leroy. I mean, at the Memorial Park, because what happens too, if for Leroy Park to use the restrooms, who cleans the restrooms after it's used? The city staff have to clean the restroom. So if you have a porta potty over here, the porta potties, I don't see how you're gonna get by with $100-something a month for that. I just don't. Yeah,
They're way more expensive.
oh yeah, they're. I don't know where you got that. Maybe.
I didn't get that.
Okay, you may have one of the farmers bring something out there, which it happens a lot. They'll say, well, take one of our units out there, and that's pretty cool. But that's a low end. I know that when we had an event over there, a trunk or treat, that we had porta potties, and that was like $200-300 a day. So whatever your figures are and wherever you got it, maybe you know somebody that we don't know, but the concern also would be, you have to have it upkeep, of course, and probably the rental pays for the upkeep of that unit, because if it's left, I think you were hinting it's gonna be left so the public can use it. And that would really mean a lot of cleaning, because a lot of people would want to use it.
Something additional I just thought of right now too, is that if we were to move it to Leroy. And it's, the frequency is once a week, correct? It would be. It would limit the opportunity for residents to be able to rent certain spots from the Leroy facility, Leroy Park as well.
Yeah.
So, like if I'm trying to have a birthday party on a Saturday, it would limit that from being able to have, some opportunity there too, so. I think that's one, although I'm all about, we're trying to get the cost effective part of the free, I totally understand what Hannah's saying with that too, but. They're conversing about something else. I want to know what they're conversing about.
We were just talking about that that's the only EV charger in town, the one that's at Veterans Memorial Plaza, so that's, even though it seems like it's not that big a deal to someone who's banking on, okay, I'm gonna stop in Guadalupe and charge my car, and then it's not there, that's kind of.
You're there for 4 hours, right? Okay, they can go there for 4, or they go there after.
But what if someone's driving into town?
You know, listen, we have a senior one there, and it's Shannon's job to get more.
No, but I think it
Well,
is a good point Hannah makes, because even though it's only a 4-hour market, we're talking about, emptying the parking lot in the morning until after the market, and so.
You can designate an area so somebody can go on
You get a
and
big
go to the-
extension.
Yeah,
Yeah,
designate that area.
The other question that I had is whether or not they need the entire parking lot.
Right.
Is there any way that the south side of the parking lot can be left open? And
You
that
know
way
what?
you can have some parking there, and if the farmer's market could use the north and east side. And then that way we need some parking available, including the electrical vehicle chargers. Might be a.
That would actually work. I'm looking at the schematics of the parking lot right now. And you're only giving up a few spaces.
You mean on Google Maps?
On Google Yeah, on Google Maps,
But schematics.
Wow.
but you only need, if you're running only 6, 12 stalls in the beginning, you can probably just utilize just that side. And you should be fine. And it would be easier actually to put up those barricades, and you just have half the parking lot.
And it's,
So it would work.
you just start small, it's like a goldfish in a small bowl. You put it in a bigger bowl, it'll grow, so you can start with whatever, 5 or 6, and
this is my Google map right
Okay.
here. And,
Although you'd say.
if we just used one side of the market, that would cut the vendors in half. And with using the whole lot, we're talking 6 for sure, and maybe 8 vendors. And do we really want a farmer's market with just 3 vendors on one side? I don't
Yeah,
know
that's not gonna get it.
if that,
Well, normally they're like
Again,
a
that's
10
my-
by space or 12 by 12 space, so you have that whole side. The northern side of that parking lot, and then you have the actual backside, and you would leave that charging unit open so they can actually come in and out.
it's a good point that, the space where the charging unit is could be left.
Right.
But probably not that whole site. They have a market that people would want to come to.
Well, you can block
There's a
off
variety of vendors.
4 spaces there.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, if they get stuck in Guadalupe, that's the worst thing they have, right? They're at a farm market.
The world of other people into this, but I'm curious to see what Chief Cash thinks about public safety standpoint, as far as if we were to just block off that one area with the EV charger with people walking around, is that an issue?
We'll talk later, Hannah.
We can have the interns, stand.
Yeah, you just turn it off.
Oh, jeez. Thank you, Hannah. Not having time to kind of review this, having a portion of that side. Only thing we gotta remember is if they pull in, it's gotta make sure that they can pull out without making it a problem. So it's whatever the council wish, we will make it happen.
Hammerhead.
Any more comment from the council in terms of the proposed attachment one, which is the agreement?
Can I just check in on one thing?
Sure.
Because I'm relatively new and Bresa's been at this for 2 years. They put a lot of work into it. I'm just curious, because Ellen's here. Did you read the background and what it said about Bresa's involvement and are you in agreement with that? Is it pretty accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna make a comment, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Make a comment.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was just to answer your question, I think that background is pretty great. As far as kind of what work we've done in the past, we have talked about and considered both locations, and so several of us have already kind of had this discussion like last year. And we had the same concerns, the same pros and cons, and so we believe that either location will really serve the community. I think a few of the things that were kind of came up in previous conversations, again, were the same things that came up for you. That the kind of on the Memorial Plaza is prime location just for visibility, to bring in not just people within Guadalupe, but even people driving by and wanting to stop and visit the farmers market. I think, you know, the Leroy Park is a great place and would actually provide a lot of conveniences. I think the number one consideration we heard from the Route 1 market is consistency, which is if we pick one location to stick with it. Again, you know, from the conversations that we've had, Memorial Plaza was the one that kind of came out just because it was really visible and we can always work on improving that market. I think if we wanted to expand into Leroy Market or into Leroy Park, you know, that could potentially be for other types of vendors, for more food-centric vendors, or again, more kind of family-oriented events. And so I think having it focused on downtown also allows a focus on the local businesses. And so again, I think whichever you go with, I think we will be happy to kind of go with the council's advice. And so really it's a kind of a wealth of opportunity. And I can already tell if people are looking at, you know, schematics, that there is an opportunity here. So really, whether it's downtown, you know, the porta potty would actually provide an extra community benefit. And so no matter what place you pick, we'll try to keep finding out, you know, what else can we do? You know, what can we kind of build on top of kind of this project? But for Fresa, again, you know, Dennis is doing a good job of kind of picking up the baton and really having Guadalupe own this market. And so we're really excited that Dennis is doing this, and we expect Hannah to join our Friday meeting to kind of give us more information about kind of where these numbers came from and, you know, to discuss the name. And so, again, I know this is a process, and so Fresa will kind of be here to support Dennis and whatever the council needs.
It seems like, you know, it's almost like a public hearing, which is fine, but it's, I think one of the biggest concerns is the fees. I don't think the water is gonna be a big issue. I don't think the porta potty is gonna be a big issue. I don't think the electricity is gonna be a big issue because they're not gonna use that much. I don't think the traffic's gonna be the charging station, I don't see that as a big issue personally. We have another one in the senior center, if somebody wanted to use that, and that's free at this point. Can we carve this out to where the staff can get together with you all to look at the cost, but to give you some headway in saying which location you can pinpoint? I think that by carving up the parking lot to just half of it or a quarter of it, it's not gonna work. Because you're gonna have those, they have trucks too, that pull in their vehicles, so you're gonna have the trucks and the canopies and their product. You can't using the schematic, you can't you can't compress it. So
Yeah, I mean, I think choosing that parking lot does give us options. I think in the future, as the city, I'm doing my CC job, as we install more EV chargers throughout town. We hope that maybe that won't be such a big need in the future and we could expand that little parking area. I know you also mentioned a few parking spots, that could also be useful for the farmers themselves to have, nearby parking. Again, Leroy Park is pretty convenient in terms of having like a full circle access, but Memorial Plaza has a similar, full circle to entrances. So I think that we can try to make it work. I think it's just a matter of kind of what you said, how easy we're making, the market to actually happen. And so for us, if this is a matter of funds, FRESA will be here to fundraise, alongside, and we'll make sure that the market happen. I think the one thing I do disagree with Dennis is that, this market will make money. All the other markets have been financially feasible. And by supporting EBT and market match, each market has actually been able to expand what they make month to month. So I do think in the future, and as we kind of have all of these programs set, the market will be pretty feasible and bring in a lot of kind of financial resources. But like you said, in the beginning, it is going to be hard because we can't necessarily start off with those programs. And so we need a strong foundation. On the EV front, I would suggest, if you're really concerned with limiting it for those 4 hours on potentially Saturday. I know right now that the parking is actually closed overnight for about 6 hours every day.
Which is,
The Memorial Plaza is actually closed overnight.
There's signage.
is it?
Mhm.
Who pays attention to that?
I do. because I charge.
Because we ticketed.
Oh, you take it, okay, good to know. No part that, so.
Well, I mean, that's about, if it's 7 times 6 hours, it's about 35 hours a week. So if you were to open it just overnight, already that would be kind of a bigger increase to access to those chargers than hopefully those 4 hours that were there. But again, I think it's workable. And we're here to kind of support whatever's the most convenient. 'Cause I think for a city like Guadalupe, I think convenience and affordability, I think are like top of mind.
She's gonna throw a monkey wrench into your whole thing.
Yeah. So I was thinking, well, one is also that's like our main parking for anybody coming to visit Guadalupe. And visit our restaurants. Yes, they park on the side, but that's also like the main area. But yeah, I was also even thinking just off the wall, like Far Western is also that strip that I know we've held, a couple years ago, we held the
We did a cleanup, there was
a cleanup, but we also held an event, a fundraising event with several other entities. Yes, the rummage stuff. And it actually was pretty well attended and a lot of people, and it's just right across. And also maybe a good partnership with the Dune Center as well, because they are overseeing that. But that's just.
So we need to come to some kind of
Yeah.
forward movement.
Yeah.
And then, aside from that, I think another thing that might be a good partnership would be, I don't know who owns the land for sure behind the Memorial Plaza there.
Masatani.
The Mazanines, is there an opportunity to be able to partner up with them? That's just like a rhetorical question, hopefully someone could find the answer for. Because that could also be able to provide more space for people to be able to do something there, either have like more, I mean, it hasn't been, I've lived here all my life, and it's never been developed.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, again, there has been a lot of consideration, wind being another big consideration. And again, I think just we want to highlight that we've had some of these early conversations in the PRESA meeting. And so by having Hannah come in, we can kind of get all cut up and we can kind of keep coming back. That way you're kind of up to speed. Because yeah, it's going to be a lot of rhetorical questions.
But I would recommend from our point to actually look at the location. And then for you, for Hannah, you all to sit and talk about the expense. I heard that there could be money made. But I would think perhaps maybe a 6 month or a year forgiveness in terms of what's charged or whatever amount. Just so that you have the headwind to, not the headwind, what do you call it?
Headwind's fine.
Headwind, okay. Okay, we get it. So on the formal side, on the legal side, can we look at approving a portion of this and then having Hannah and the group work together?
In terms of fees, I know you're saying to
Right.
meet with them about that, but that's kind of why I brought it to you guys, because I wanted your guys' input. I don't want to be the sole person making the decision.
Well, I think what happens is there was some discussion in terms of, are these accurate?
The Veterans Memorial Plaza.
Well, I'm looking at the $12 an hour for electricity.
Well, that's where I was saying that it's kind of complicated because it just depends on usage and,
They're plugging in nothing right now.
well, that's why I brought it to you guys so that you could decide. what
Yeah,
to do.
again, if there's a way to monitor, it's not like we're trying to get out from, we're not trying to put a cost on the city, but we're also not wanting to pay the city for something we're not really using. So if there's a way to monitor that, or if there could be a little bit of a grace period so we can actually see, you know, like I thought the idea of reading the meter before and after for few markets and just get a sense. That's a possibility. I do want to also say that I was in the restroom down at Leroy Park. It doesn't have hot water, so we'd save on a porta potty, but we'd still have to provide hot water somehow for vendors.
And then just to be clear, the $12 isn't the price tag that was placed, it's just a guesstimate of
Yes.
what. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wanted to present to the council so that they would take into consideration that maybe that might be higher than what we would use, that's all.
One thing that's always curious to me, I know we want to reduce carbon footprint and stuff, but what's the charge for charging your car for 4 hours, you know, to the city? Thrown out there. There's a cost there.
Yeah, because it's free right now.
Yeah.
People can just plug in.
And so it could be for somebody from outside
You know,
the
there's a
city.
lot of
that's-
details to a farmer's market.
Pardon me?
I said, there's a lot of details to a farmer's market.
There are a lot of details, and that's why we're back in the
Sure.
time, we will be back here a number of times, we just, like you said, if we could get some little report, that would be helpful. However, we do that.
What's up on the council side? What is looking at the Leroy Park or Memorial Park? What's the council's consensus?
It's the lesser of the two.
I know.
Visibility wise, I would say Memorial Park.
Gene?
I'm more towards Leroy because of the parking.
Antonio?
Initially I was towards Leroy, but I feel like Memorial now, just because of the opportunity for residents to be able to rent out the facility, the Leroy Park on Saturdays.
Really?
I am, I think I'm gonna go for Leroy.
No, I'm the Memorial Park. So what do we get? 32. Now, what do you need from us, Phil? And what to,
Natural.
for them to move forward?
The only thing really you're gonna need is, you'll have to amend your policy for Veterans Memorial Park, because it's not one of the events that's allowed to be there. So that's not a big deal, that can be placed later. You just need to give direction to staff, probably to, work with the market to develop a plan, and then we can bring back the plan to you for like a final approval, with any concerns the staff may have along with the policy amendment.
Okay.
So. I think, there's a consensus of council to have it at state for the record, it's 3-2 in favor of, it's not a vote, but direction consensus 3-2, or not a consensus, it's 3 votes in favor of, excuse me, I'm saying it's votes and it's not votes, unless you want to make a motion. Which may be probably the best recommendation, since it's not consensus, it's not unanimous, so I would recommend make a motion to directing staff to work with the farmers market people on the plan to use Veterans Memorial Park.
Is there a motion on that?
I would say just before the motion that we make sure that all those players are in the room, that the city is involved, GBA is involved. Any partners that are around that facility are involved. Because I don't know if it's providing you direction to go towards that way, but I don't know if it's like I wouldn't say it's a for sure thing just yet. Just to make sure that all those things are in a row as well. Because there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions that still need to be answered, and I think that that's one of the things that we want to make sure happens, but the farmers market needs to happen, just so everyone knows, that's where we stand on that. So I'll motion to, for now, move forward with the Veterans Memorial Plaza for the farmers market.
For a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
Schematics.
All those in favor? There's a motion, all those in favor, say aye. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed,
No.
okay, 4 ayes. and- 4
Who
ayes.
knows?
No, three eyes.
3-2. 3-2. Passed. Now,
We do need a formula.
yeah.
That is.
So,
It's nothing against the farmers
No,
market. No, it's the location, it's the location. It's not, the the farmers
we have
market
to
will
work
be,
out the details.
but location is more the key for. For me and Councilwoman Cardenas.
Okay, do you have enough to work on?
So,
Working with-
if I understand right, the city is deciding that it's okay for us to proceed with the
Correct.
farmers market in Veterans Plaza.
Correct.
Okay, what Hannah suggested, that if it was Veterans Plaza, then there's two considerations. What the city would charge, or whether the city would waive fees on the use of Veterans Plaza. Are you inclined to vote on that as well, or?
Not right now, I want to see more details in terms of, like, I'm looking at forgiveness for about 3 months or 4 months or whatever it is, to see how that, we don't know what is gonna be charged, we don't know the rate of electricity, water, you have to deal with the porta potties, so those are the details we gotta work on.
The direction on that is to give them a grace period to record data. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we need to know what, like Shannon's, like, the amount of power, we need those specifics, like, what power are you proposing? The usage, you're talking about the gazebo, which is plugging in a amplifier.
It's just it's a 110 outlet. and-
Yeah, it's just
And also for the hand washing, it would be 110 outlet, so 2 outlets.
But on that, what about the accumulated trash? There's no.
Yeah, well, the
trash
market,
ban out there.
and again, I have a tendency, as Alan knows, to try to make commitments unilaterally. But I'm just saying what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to have them, I would be willing to have the market have a van or a storage unit or something where we keep all our stuff in the market and bring it every market. We'll put the trash cans out, we'll put out the barriers with the sign that says, don't park here on Saturday. I don't have a problem with doing those kinds of things. I don't want it to be a burden for the city. But I've seen the farmers market and the reason I refer to the one at Vandenberg Village, because it's sort of on the size of what I can envision for Guadalupe. The vendors leave the place as clean as it was when they came in.
They want to be welcome back,
Yeah. So. I'm saying.
I would work with Hannah and yourselves and work out the detail. We talked about porta potty, the power, working out those specifics so that we know what's before us, so. Will that work?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Like we're good, man.
See, okay, next thing. Yeah.
There's people here that are.
Yeah,
really
I've asked
been
if they
working
want-
a long time. I want to make sure they have.
Me too. You're good then?
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
all right. Public hearing, Mr. Bill Scott. Sorry for the delay. I thought this would be quick, but it's just opposite. So, but that's good.
Absolutely no problem. Thank you, Mayor,
Thank you.
City Council, staff, and members of the public. Good to be here. Bear with me. I'm getting over a bug, so I hopefully I get my voice.
Keep it over
there. But I tested it wasn't COVID or the flu, so I think that was a good part. The project before you is
It's called, it's a conditional use permit and a design review for a project called 823 Guadalupe Street apartment. The project is again a conditional use permit and a design review. It would allow 24 market rate apartments in a new 3-story apartment building and remodel upstairs portion of a 2-story building to add 3 apartment units for very low income households. Again, a total of 27 apartments. The project is proposed under the state law, Government Code 65915, also known as the density bonus law. Project site again, 823-829 Guadalupe Street. Up there where the little red balloon is, existing building, again, 823-829 Guadalupe Street is the frontage, the front of the site on the east. That vacant part, the green part, is where the new apartment building would go on the west side, bounded by Pioneer Street and A Street to the south. Existing building, again, old 2-story, classic 2-story building, commercial on the ground floor. The apartments, the 3 affordable apartments would be in the remodel portion where the windows are upstairs. The vacant part looking from Pioneer Street in the back. So that's where the new apartment building would go. That's kind of the orientation. The bottom shows kind of the existing building with the stairwell and the new building behind. And again, that top view is the westerly elevation that would face Pioneer Street. Again, the project is proposed under government code, state government code 65915, the density bonus law. That law provides an increase in residential density over the local government's general plan or zoning. That code also allows certain concessions or incentives to the developer, such as parking reductions and setback reductions, which are being asked for. In terms of the calculation, this is the density bonus calculation we looked at, and specifically this particular lot, 30,492 square feet. Our zoning code says, using the R3 district standard, the zoning code says you get 1 dwelling unit for every 1,700 square foot of lot area. You do the math, and that gives you about 17.9 apartments under our current zoning. And that's municipal code section specified up there. The government code says if you provide 15% very low income or apartments or units for very low income households, you get a 50% density bonus. So 15% of the units of that 17.93 allowable, you get a 50% density bonus under government code. That 50% density bonus added to our city base zoning or base allowance, I should say, 17.93 plus 50%, will give you about 27 apartment units. That's what the applicant is asking for. So in a nutshell, under density bonus law, you can get 27 apartments, or otherwise under our code, you would have had about 18. The density bonus law also provides for incentives or concessions. In this particular case, when you provide 15% of the units for very low income households, you get 3 incentives, and the applicant has requested 3 incentives. Again, we talked about the 9 additional apartments in terms of density. The 3 incentives in this particular case that are being requested are a setback reduction on the Pioneer side. We could call it a front. We call it, for the purposes of this project, a rear. It really is the same thing. Instead of a 15-foot rear setback, they're asking for a 1-foot rear setback. Instead of the code required 2 parking spaces per unit, which would add up to about 54 spaces. They're adding for a parking reduction to about 27 parking spaces. And then where our code says 1 covered parking space per unit, which would typically be 27 covered parking spaces. They're saying they want no covered parking. So a reduction in parking, a reduction in setbacks, no covered parking. The setback reduction, if you can see here on the kind of left-hand side, that's the end of the building. there's a dot dash line, that dot dash line is the property line. And it might be hard to see, but there's a 1. So what we're saying is the back of the building is 1 foot away from the property line. Typically, the back of the building would have been between 15 and 20 feet from that property line. So there would have been a little bit more of a landscape space back there. In this case, the concession works, the 1 foot setback works for a couple of reasons. The building official looked at it and said there's no safety impact. And kind of indirectly, there's a parkway there. You can see the green area between the dot dash line and the and with some trees in it. That's public parkway that gets dedicated to the city. It's not part of the private yard, the apartment yard, but it kind of would function indirectly as a yard. So technically it works. I wouldn't call it an optimum preference, but it does work functionally. So that's the setback reduction request. Again, that kind of shows the floor plan, but particularly we're looking at the 27 uncovered parking spaces. The parking spaces are aligned on the southerly side of the property, angle parking, one-way driveway, a 16-foot wide driveway, and again, 27 total parking spaces that would serve both buildings. Again, that is provided under the density bonus law. In a normal case, we'd have 54 parking spaces. But again, it does work under density bonus law. Again, looking at the site, based on our analysis, we will assume that there will be on-street parking. Just under normal circumstances, we don't think we do. I mean, most households have more than 1 car. So cars will park on the street. But again, the project does meet density bonus law. In this particular case, looking at the surroundings, I guess the on-street parking might not be the worst thing in the world, given you got the agriculture in the county to the west there. And I guess the low intensity, if this was a neighborhood, it might be a bit more of a concern. But in this case, the on-street parking probably isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm not saying it's optimum. I'm not saying there won't be parking impacts. There probably will. I'm just not sure they'd be severe or significant. But again, that's kind of how that would look in the context of the neighborhood. So again, the result, just to summarize again, an increase of 9 apartments over what would normally be allowed under our R3 zoning. Again, the property is zoned CG general commercial or GC general commercial. But again, when we analyze residential projects under the general commercial zoning district, we do a conditional use permit and we use the R3 high density residential standards, just to clarify that. So again, 9 additional apartments over what would normally be allowed. The setback reduction, as we discussed, and then the parking reduction that we would anticipate some on-street parking. In terms of the design review part, there's also a design review required. The project is in the downtown core, and the code says any project in the downtown core area does need a design review. In this case, we looked at the architecture. We think it's pretty good. Spanish mission style, 3-story building. We'll talk about code compliance, but regular code compliance, the other zoning code compliance in a second. But again, that's the side view of the building. Again, pretty good elevations in our opinion. The other part of the design review that we think needs some work, and we've discussed this with the property owner before. The front building. The front building has some historic character. It's been around for many years, but it needs a lot of work. So as a part of any design review or any approval, the front needs to be renovated. The facade needs to be fixed. Broken windows need to be replaced. It needs to be power washed and cleaned up. So as a part of any approval, the front building needs to be fixed in our view. So that would be a part of any project approval. Other zoning code standards, again, building height, the project does meet the 30-foot maximum building height. Open space provided for ground floor multifamily units is met. Open space provided for upper floor residential units is met. Landscape is met. Walls and fencing, 6-foot wall will be required and provided, so that will be met. And the driveway, the zoning code specifications are the code number is there. It was the code typically requires a 12-foot minimum for one-way driveway. The applicant's providing 16 feet, a 16-foot wide driveway with a flat curb that has been reviewed by the fire department and we believe endorsed. In terms of the general plan, overall, density bonus aside, we believe it's a good project in this respect. More residential units in the downtown increases market demand for downtown businesses. So the more units you get downtown, the more apartments, the better. So in that respect, we believe it meets general plan policy and it's a good project in that respect. Again, the infill using that vacant, underutilized site, that underutilized property in the downtown supports general plan policies to reuse, again, underutilized properties where infrastructure and facilities are already in place. I looked at the new general plan to be adopted, so I wouldn't say this counts, but it does say in the new general plan, the city will promote density bonuses and incentives. So we're a little ahead of ourselves. I wouldn't say that counts because that's not adopted, but it is an observation. I think we hit on that. CEQA class 32 exemption infill site. Again, that's the class 32 applies to infill projects within the city limits, less than 5 acres on sites already served by public utilities and municipal service. And the site has no value as a habitat for endangered species. So again, the project is exempt under CEQA. With the staff, that staff recommends adopt resolution 2022-97 approving the conditional use permit 2022-027 CUP and design review 2022-030 DR and the CEQA class 32 exemption for the 823 Guadalupe apartment. That would conclude staff's presentation. We're available for comments. And the developer and project architect are here, Mr. Patrick Kimball, the project developer, and Tom Jess, project architect, if you have questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Right now, I can't see what time is it?
It's actually, it's now, it's almost 8 o'clock. 7:57.
7:57. So right at this point, I'm gonna open up to public hearing at 7:57. And so the public, if you wish to discuss this item or have any comments, I don't know, Mr. Alvarez. I saw you moving up.
Thank you. Good evening. I didn't want to pass in front of him when he was giving his presentation, so I waited. In general, I'm supportive of this project. I think it's going to clean up that area a lot. A lot of dirt flies from that parking lot. Well, dirt lot, it's not a parking lot. But I do see the parking situation. We own the properties adjacent to there, and we probably have close to the parking that they're going to propose for that. It's parking on the south side, and I think it needs, with the families and kids and whatnot, I think it needs a block wall, 6 foot for safety, for division. Otherwise, I think I could see some of the people that are living there parking on our side. And it's just gonna be extra work for the chief, so. But in general, we do need more housing, so I do support that. I think the 3 low income, low affordable homes will be also a great addition. And a facelift to the building for sure. But the block walls, I think on the north and the south should be required for safety reasons. The fence on the north side is a tin fence. And if you go back to the pictures, there's 2x6s or something, 2x4s, they gotta climb up, kids have probably cut themselves on there. So, thank you.
How big is it? Your, what kind of a berm or what do you have there? Do you have?
We have an 8 curve.
Okay.
Yeah, so you go back to the previous one if you want, right there. So we have an 8 curb at the property. And as it is right now, trucks drive over that curb or park on our side. But you can see how much parking we have and it's all concrete. So it's gonna be very inviting for those extra people that don't have parking space on their property.
Okay.
I encourage, hopefully respectfully, a block wall on both sides for the safety of the neighborhood.
You say both sides.
Well, there's a tin, I don't know if you have a
The
picture
other
of
side.
a tin fence on the other side. I thought I saw one in there somewhere. And that's maybe the open picture of the part of the lots. Right there, back, See the fence?
Yeah, it's not,
It's a chain fence.
fences, it's just.
Yeah. So if you, and the other side is just an acre.
then the curve.
Right, yeah. Is there plans for that? I'm asking the developer, is there plans on that north side? I don't know what setback there is, but.
I'll let the developer confirm, but we talked about that. It's not in the conditions. I considered it putting it in the conditions. But the code does require a 6-foot masonry wall along that property line where the tin fence is. So
Okay,
it's required by code. We can add it as a condition, or maybe the developer wants to just confirm right now at the public hearing.
Well, at the same time, and that's good, thank you, but I guess how are we going to, or the city, or. How is the city going to put a condition for our parking lot on the
on the other side.
south side that
Mhm.
people could just park right there and walk over to the other side? Because we have a lot of parking there.
I'm not sure we want to. I would have to look at that. Could you,
Point to it.
but how tall a wall would you want?
Well, 6 feet on both sides. They got a lot of extensions, I think they could afford a block wall.
I'm really not sure we want one.
We're gonna get a lot of traffic through there, going through the landscape.
Well, we can discuss that, so. But definitely on the set.
We want one on the north side. We maybe a lower wall, a 3-foot wall,
Gonna jump it.
6 foot.
It's kind of blocks it in, but I mean, so, yeah.
Yeah, can you come up,
Oh, wait, I mean, I just don't want to interrupt. Hi, good evening. I'm Tom Jess. I'm the project architect on this project. Before I answer that question, I did want to just say that it's been a really good experience working with Bill and staff and everything. So kudos to the city. It's been a really good experience coming through. So thank you very much. As far as the project goes, we want to comply with the regulation, and we're aware of the regulation for the block wall on the north side. And I think Bill had a really good point of, you don't need to make a condition if it's already in the plan that we have to do it. But, so we're on board with that. On the south side, we'll defer to what staff recommends, like there in terms of, we want to be a good neighbor, but if he says it's not a good idea, we wouldn't do it. If he says it's a good idea, we'll do it. We're not one way or the other. I think our preference would be to not block it in with, I mean, it's a fairly narrow lot, and having 2 walls might be kind of tight, but I understand the concern, so. We're happy to work with staff, and we'll be flexible in whatever they recommend there. There was one point that I wanted to clarify, and that was that the affordable deed restricted, very low income units are deed restricted to very low. They are not necessarily going to be the 3 units on the second floor of that existing building. The way that the rules work and the laws work, it has to be distributed among the types of units. So like if we have a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, whatever the unit mix is, it has to be equitable among the different unit mix. And then as far as the state density bonus law and how that works, we do quite a few projects with that and are very familiar with it. So if there's any specific questions regarding that, I'd be happy to answer what I can. And obviously the city attorney here is an expert in that as well. But we feel like it's a good project. It's bringing people downtown. It's housing downtown. It's apartments, which are necessarily just by virtue more affordable than single family homes. And we want to do a good job and be a good neighbor. So happy to answer any questions.
that parking lot's all one way, coming in from the. going up the
Correct.
street and going
It's
all
one
the
way
up.
with angled parking.
On that little green belt right there, what's the distance from the curb to the? Is it 12 feet? Did I hear 12 feet? Maybe that's too much.
Between the property line and the parking?
Yeah, right where those poles are. towards-
Oh, right there?
Yeah,
It is, I think it's about 12 feet.
okay. The top of are you on the second story on the existing building? There used to be 14, 15 different rooms there. Do you know what's the square footage of that? Do you have any? Because those apartments that you got up there are gonna be pretty good size, I would think.
There's a mix of 1, 2s, and 3s in that one. Or let me see, no,
3 residential units and they are 1, 2. Yeah, they're pretty good size.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact.
Okay. Now, affordable, based on what you just said, it depends on the size of the unit. And you're talking about affordable. And you're gonna have affordable housing there, and you don't, what's the standard now in terms of what Santa Fe County or the state determines as affordable?
So I don't want to quote the exact numbers, but I know very well for San Luis Obispo County.
Okay.
I'm in San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
For very low income, a 1 bedroom is about $600 a month, something like that, and a 2 bedroom is probably in the $900 range,
Okay.
something like that.
And there's 3 of them, correct?
There's 3, correct. And that's tied to the median income in the
Right.
neighborhood, and they update it once a year. And those rates are set. There's
Right.
no-
Section 8.
Any questions? I think just looking at I think the only question right now was the fence on the north side, so
The wall.
the wall, whatever it's, yeah. Good.
I'd like to see maybe if you guys can get with the property owner on the south side, or maybe you guys can share. The payment on making that wall would be a good thing. On that aspect, but
I would love that, I think.
with, with the existing building. It's been retrofitted, correct? Because it is old masonry.
Where's Pat go?
I think you got just
I
a
think
little
they're
bit.
negotiating right now with the property owner to the south. Pat's the property owner. Hey, Pat. Have you done any seismic works for the existing building?
It's been retrofitted, yeah.
It has.
Yeah, because I remember when we had they were, yeah, the earthquake up in, San
Is
Simeon.
that part of that former?
And it was part of the, yeah, because there's a lot of our buildings were old masonry. So with that existing building. You're not gonna touch that exterior or that building at all. You're gonna build adding on to it.
We're not adding any square footage to it. We are touching it in the fact that we are cleaning it up and fixing the windows and doing the renovation of it, but not
Okay.
adding any square footage to it.
So that will be all behind.
Correct.
So there won't be another story added to that existence. So everything back is gonna be the 3.
It's all new.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And it was a great suggestion because that's the property owner to the south and and this current property owner figuring out the fix right now.
Oh,
Sharing. What, and then Bill is pretty much an expert on this, on the H2A, is there any plans on converting that to H2A?
Mayor, I defer to the developer, but no, there are no plans. The ground floor is commercial, that's my understanding. The ground floor is commercial and the upstairs would just be apartments. I have not heard about any H2A, but I'd like to hear the developer or owner confirm that.
You gonna put them on the spot?
Yeah. What was the question, sorry?
Is there any thought about converting the new units to H2A?
We're just permitting apartments, they're just strictly apartments. So I'm not gonna say that we were gonna put H2A in there or deny, but it's just permitted as a straight apartment style project.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the commercial space on the first floor of the existing is just gonna stay the way it is. Hopefully we can get a tenant for the other side, on the other side of Los Angeles. Someone that would be good for the space.
The commercial on the front, that's the front side, that's the one that you're.
Yes.
Okay. So you're gonna clean that up?
Yes.
Good.
that's great.
I actually should have done it already, but I procrastinated. You know, I have a price from a guy to kind of mirror what they did on the in front of the restaurant, which I think looks nice.
Yeah. Any other comments out there for public hearing? If not, we're gonna close the public hearing at 8:10.
Yes.
8:10 PM. Back to the council and staff. Questions, comments? Good looking project.
Yeah. I think it'll be a nice cleanup.
Nice.
Yeah.
As long as there's no cyclone fence in between Newbridge property and. You folks work out an agreement, or are you still?
Yeah, we shook hands, we're.
It's up to us to make
You
an
can still shake hands.
So, to answer the question, we have 27 parking spaces on our property, I just counted them. They're gonna put 27 on theirs. I think a trade-off of 2 block walls is a good trade-off.
Okay.
Wow.
I think, where's Bill? Please come up. We need to- Your recommendation on the south side is a 3-foot wall or small or lower or?
Mayor, my only concern about walls is too many walls, you start to get this canyon effect, one. More walls is more graffiti magnet too, so it's up to somebody to have their paintbrush and scrubber ready until you get some landscaping. But with that, the wall could be a good thing if it's done architecturally nicely, if it's wanted, and if it's maintained. So with that, we don't have a big aversion to it. The wall would be fine. If it's maintained, the graffiti's kept down, and it's architecturally compatible with the main building, we can look, sure. Wall's okay. I heard one of the gentlemen talking about it, looking like a canyon. That's a possibility. Yeah. And also perhaps hiding back in that area, although it would prevent people from driving across both sides, so. So there's pros and cons. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have a little bit of time, well. We want it to look good and we want to make sure that we're not a problem to our neighbors, so maybe if we can collectively work out something that. You know, is fitting for the situation with a little more time, maybe that would be beneficial.
I don't think you heard my comment when you and Mr. Alvarez were talking in the back, but I had mentioned. Maybe you guys can talk about it and share
Yeah,
the cost of putting that block wall up with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
This project.
well, yeah, but I wanted to.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
it's one
appreciate
of
that,
those
yeah.
like, something that you can, you know, both of you guys might be able to consider and.
I think we will. I'd like to have some greenery in there and landscaping and stuff too, and so what I just want to be mindful of is how the wall would impact that, with blocking the sun and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, although I understand where he's coming from with the parking, because he has a nice, beautiful parking lot there that's empty most of the time. So, I think we could work through something. That's, you guys.
But there's something that Bill has to be in writing now or approved.
Yeah, I think you approve the project, you approve it without that block wall.
Right.
So if there's two options, you either continue it for a period of time to allow them to work something out, or you approve it and then they can come back and do an amendment. If they come to an agreement.
Okay, Bill, if I may, just another suggestion that maybe we can get a conclusion if they agree on a decorative iron fence, a nice iron fence, maybe with some highlights.
You can see through it.
That gives the barrier, but it's not a wall, so maybe that's.
So, Ben.
Well, yeah, so it
But
stops,
it's solid.
it's
beautiful.
stopping traffic, he didn't want traffic going back and forth, people going back and forth, so it'd be a 6-foot fence. But it wouldn't be a solid wall, with a graffiti magnet, so just a thought. My concern is what that would look like, because we have in our agenda, our package, some pictures of the cycle fencing, so what, no decorative iron. Yeah, decorative iron, yeah.
But kind of like, that's one of Mackenzie. But right,
Yeah.
that would be. Which would be, I mean, it's open, there's.
It's less
you know,
costly,
But
less
you
costly.
can't. You know, there's no way to really jump it. The only thing. The only thing on that is the maintenance would have to be because of the weather out here. Some of those, sometimes that wrought iron fence doesn't last very long.
We can just,
Powder coated.
we could make it out of, Corten, it's a metal that's basically meant to rust and then it stops, we can condition that if you wanted to, and it would just be kind of like it would kind of patina.
Yeah.
And we can do something like that.
And that would be 6 foot?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for the property owners to make an agreement amongst themselves. If it's not needed for us, for our code,
It just have to be approved. by us.
right?
Any comments from the council? What do you're good with the,
I'm fine with, if they come to an agreement with the water iron fence or the material itself, I mean, it's. Saving from people crossing over, which I understand where it's coming from, you know. People parking in the lot that's not. For that spot, you know, which is understandable, so I mean. Without that, I mean, any kind of fencing that would help, that's gonna look nice.
right? Gilbert, anything?
Yeah, I'm just trying to envision the overflow, because if you have 27 single parking and. I mean, you have one car per unit, would they all go down to Pioneer or?
Yep.
They would have to,
Yeah.
cause there's no overnight parking within certain hours.
And across from Pioneer, I guess on one of the maps, there is nothing but farmland, right?
Well,
On something like that, Shannon. How there's that parking, will we be able to put on the farmland side, no parking? Or is that something with the owner
That's the chief, isn't it? That's the chief.
or chief? Someone's gotta have the answer. Well, you have the one side, but if you park on both sides, oh,
it's pretty good size.
is it?
Yeah, regular street. Okay,
It's not.
That's
it's
not
on the other-
ours.
on
The other side of the street is county.
It's not ours.
Okay.
well, that should set that. On the decorative iron, would there be a base to that? Or does that have to, that has to be figured out, but you're not gonna put it on, right on the ground itself, is there gonna be a concrete base?
Like elevated?
Do that, if that
Right.
would be what the council wants, we could have a concrete base with, sure, if that's the preference.
But my thought is if you have right on the ground, somebody's gonna just run into it.
Sure, we could have a concrete base.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe, I envision
Like 3
maybe
feet,
some
2 feet.
pilasters, you know, some
Yeah.
posts.
That's my thought. So are we gonna require them to have decorative fence or iron fence? Sure. Got some we need some separation there.
Yeah.
Lily, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking the mess it's gonna be with all the 27 units and no parking available for them. And how that's gonna look on our street on Pioneer. Because as it is, we have
8th Street.
8th Street, as it is, we have a lot of traffic on there. A lot of parking, there's no parking available.
It'll look like Olivera Street.
But
Yeah, and all the various
Yeah.
streets an issue for the residents.
that's driven by the law.
Well, yeah, exactly. We've got. we're
Yeah, the
confined
law,
to
yeah, you're confined to the law.
The density requirement, provisions. So if we're good with the wrought iron decorative fence between, on the south side with a curve. And letting the architects work that out. And Bill, you good with that?
That's good with that, thank you.
Okay, and it gives Lucas some, Mr. Alvarez, at least the barrier where. Okay, what's the wishes of the council?
So we have to amend this, too?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I'm gonna make, Mr. Scott do the work this time, because that's a planning condition, not a legal condition, so, maybe you should give him some time to write up something to include in the record, because I know that, our city clerk will want the language tomorrow morning.
Well, this one's
Midnight.
This one's pretty easy, it's a lot easier.
We'll just turn it off.
Sidewalk.
Turn it back on.
Okay.
We have to.
So I guess I need to look at where we add it, maybe add condition at the bottom of the planning conditions. The applicant shall install a decorative wall with concrete base, decorative iron wall with concrete base along the southerly property line. That's
Iron wall, is that a fence or,
decorative iron, I'm sorry.
okay, decorative fence,
Yeah, I'm
I mean, you said
sorry.
wall, I'm like, iron wall would probably be more expensive. Masonry.
Pull something for it. Sorry, but you're right, yeah. Decorative iron fence with the concrete, with the masonry base.
With a
Or wrought
Oh,
iron.
masonry,
Concrete base.
Do we have a number? I can't call up the, my computer's running slow, can
sure.
I, when I give it a condition number?
Fire. Probably just at the very end of this planning conditions, if I can find it.
Yeah.
There's 55, so.
So number 66, add condition 66. With that language, do we have got the language? Yeah.
We'll put
Should
it
I,
under.
should I restate it? I wrote it.
Well, it's planning department conditions,
Yeah, there you go.
so it should be in after number. What is it? What's the number?
Yeah, we'd rather not renumber anything.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
I'm on.
well, I have, do you want me to state what I have and you can correct it?
66, yeah.
The applicant shall install a decorative iron fence with masonry base. My only thing is
The southern property.
along this, okay,
Concrete base.
Concrete.
Concrete base.
masonry,
Concrete.
Yeah, like a concrete curb.
okay, concrete, okay. Any height for the,
Well, probably about the same,
6 foot.
well, the fence will be 6 foot.
no, but I mean the
The
base.
concrete,
It's probably 2 feet. I don't know.
Yeah, every time,
We got curbs delineating the parking spots and everything, I don't know if it's a design, if it's not a design element, just more of a functional thing would be ideal.
okay.
Sure. And I think a good looking decorative art with pilasters. With pilasters.
So
well, it'll have the post.
These rodents are coming. So.
Oh.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome.
Go ahead and repeat.
Okay, the applicant shall install a decorative iron fence with concrete base along the southerly property line
And
and
a masonry wall along the northern property line. We might as well put it in there. Yeah. Make it official. A 6 foot masonry wall along the northern property line. Which was required anyway. Okay, read that again, please.
the applicant shall install a decorative iron fence with concrete base along the southerly property line and a masonry or 6 feet, 6 foot high masonry wall along the northerly property line.
Well, we want the pilasters.
Oh,
Yeah,
with the pilasters.
it's a decorative touch that we do want. Yeah, thank you. Anything else, Bill?
The pilasters. Yeah, it's starting to become more expensive than the block wall.
So,
Are you folks good with that?
Sure.
Okay. Both the heads not approved, though.
They're pretty easy going.
so we have language.
I think so.
Ivy.
Yeah. Oh, an ivy. Okay, Pat Ivy.
Is that?
Yeah, right.
Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-9.97 with the
Amended language,
amended language?
condition.
I motion to approve 2022-97 as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Robles.
Aye.
Mayor Julian.
The resolution passes. We'll take a 5 minute. Biological break.
Get all my laughs out.
Yeah.
What you just read is.
It's the condition.
To the condition.
It's an added condition. Yeah, I'll get it to you as well.
Piece I didn't get.
I don't know if I'm gonna leave the house or-
On what? School board. Oh, I don't know.
Not yet.
They just voted.
Okay, we could just make that number.
What's that?
This would be,
Nobody tell them. No.
well,
Okay.
No.
Oh. Oh, okay.
well.
You know,
I'm so sorry.
we're gonna move on.
That's maybe-
Sorry, move it another- Get it on. It's more of a guidance kind of thing.
There is not more to go, or?
This is 14, Main Street 14? Yes. We just did that. No, but we did those two, so we got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that,
What about it?
man. Please, bring it up.
It's an easy. We usually have this long things around because.
Yeah,
we have a-
Yeah.
So here, Sam, we're gonna put Mark.
Mark's next.
You're gonna go right after Mark.
Okay.
He's going next.
Mark's going next.
Okay.
And then.
And then Chief.
Shannon guy is gonna be continued.
Yeah.
And then he's mine later, because.
Okay. I don't want to.
Gavel.
You mean?
Ballot.
Yes.
We're going to,
Yeah.
we're gonna change some items around. To speed up our. Yeah, our dialogue in the meeting, so item 12 is now, we're gonna pull, 13 is gonna be, we're gonna hear 13 right now. Ordinance of number 22-504. And then from there, we're gonna go to ordinance, which is 14, ordinance 2022-505. And then 14 is gonna be Main Street Obispo intersection traffic study, which was 16. Hopefully somebody's keeping track of that.
Say that again, Mayor. You said 13, 14, and then,
So 13 is gonna become number
12.
no, I got that. Yeah,
14 will be 13.
got that. Right after that.
16.
14 will be
15.
Will be 14.
So 16 will be 14.
Okay, so it'll be 13, 14, 16.
What's number
In
12?
terms of the actual numbers right
Yes,
now.
12 is number
Yeah.
13.
Okay,
And then 15 will be 12.
No.
Right? No,
12 will be 15, or.
yeah, 12, that's what.
Yeah,
Just confused.
that's the other way around, yeah.
All right,
You said 15.
okay, then.
We could start off just.
16 will be council seat vacancy, then 17 will be will be 17.
Increases, salary increases?
Right?
No. Classification.
That's-
Yeah, that's
We're moving number 12.
reclassification.
We're moving 12 increases.
To the last.
Where do you want that? I had it at 15. So where do
Okay,
you
that's fine, that's fine.
want- And then 17.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay.
17 is 17 and 18 is
18.
18. All
Sorry.
right.
Okay.
You guys are making us work.
Yeah.
Number,
Yeah.
Just trying to help other people,
Okay.
you don't have to stay.
Mr. Green,
Yes, hi, good evening.
good evening. So thanks for waiting around.
I'm here to present, as you know, every 3 years, the state of California adopts new building construction codes. And each jurisdiction in California is required to provide a formal adoption of these codes with any local amendments. Now, this is the second time I have not provided any amendments. The previous, before I arrived here to take on this position, there were no amendments to the construction code for the building side. There are for fire, but not for the building side. And so I don't see a need for any. If there was any, it would be more around the soils issue because of our sandy conditions and issues with liquefaction stuff in this area. So that's the only thing that could have had amendments, but I'm pretty much feeling that with the ADUs. As you know, we're seeing a lot of accessory dwelling units. In fact, just today, I picked up 5 new ones to do a review and 1 recheck, okay? And so that's probably the most that's ever been handed to me at one time. But the reviews for the ADUs take like 3 to 5 hours typically. And, depending on how good the draftsmen are. But, as far as the code, the biggest setback that you're gonna see is a bill for all the new codes to be purchased. When I first started, they were like this much, now they're this much as far as books, okay, and codes. They've added all kinds of new codes. And the whole set of just the paper code that you can swap out the loose leaf is between $1,500 to $1,700 for that set of codes. And then we'd also like to purchase possibly some PDFs of those, because the PDF versions that you can use on your computer, you can search. If there's something you're looking for, you can search for something and it comes up real quick, because no one memorizes those codes. Some parts we do. So anyway, I'm here to, recommend the adoption of the new code. But I also wanted to mention too, that you have a couple high priority projects that I'm looking at that I'm trying to steer through. And to me, the most important project you have going right now is the Guadalupe, the theater, the Royal Theater, the addition to it and the seismic upgrade of it. It's a great project, good architects. I just completed the 3rd review. And I'm gonna go into a 4th, and there was issues on the 1st review, such as no electrical plans. You know, basically, they weren't even started hardly, and so when I got the 2nd review, full review on the electrical, and I had another 100 comments. So anyway, it's a good project. I really think they're gonna be able to get their permits here on this next review. I just want to let you know that's the status of it right now, at least from the building department. And then the only other project that's big is the Escalante Meadows apartment complex with the housing authority. They submitted a batch of revisions recently to add more mobility communication units, and you probably have seen a track map come through here to break that site into 3 parcels. And so they're proposing new property lines interior to the site, and that caused problems with setbacks between buildings, because the property line or assumed property lines between them and stuff. So we're addressing that. I just finished that review today for those revisions, and we'll see how it comes back. I'm sure it'll address everything. The only other thing is tons of ADUs and a few apartment complexes that are going up. Other than that, I just want to make a recommendation that council adopt ordinance 2022-504 and repeal the previous ordinance of 2020-491. And so all you're doing is adopting the new 2022 California construction codes. In the report and in the ordinance, it identifies exactly which code we're adopting and which amendments to each of those codes, or at least the amendments to them that are in the back of the codes, and so those are identified as what we have to adopt. So with that, if there's any questions.
I had a question regarding the ADUs. What locations are you seeing them come from? The ADU requests?
Where are they coming, where are they going in for the most part?
Yes.
Well, the 95% of them are, of course, in the, I'll call it the older area of Guadalupe that has room, on the sites to build those. But there only a couple have been tried in the new Pasadena subdivision. That one's really complicated because they have again, special floors because of our soils conditions. They have post-tension slabs. And if you cut one of those tendons, you basically kill people. Because it just rips right out of the concrete. And so those buildings have, those houses have very special foundations, but for the most part, it's just, like, I've never driven up and down every street and.
That's okay, I just wanted to know.
Been familiar
I
with
can
it,
understand where they're
But
coming
it's
from.
basically
Yeah.
the older
Right.
stock
Right,
where they're going in to have the accessory dwelling
It's
unit.
north of Main Street. North of Main Street. North of.
Yes, definitely north of Main Street.
Okay.
And pretty much Guadalupe East, whoops, excuse me, from Guadalupe Street, Highway 1E, all the way to the edge of town and north. So that,
Okay,
that section from Main Street, that's where we're seeing the most. There's been about 3 or 4 to the west.
okay, you answered my question.
Yeah,
A couple is down
Mr.
there.
Graham, sorry, we are kind of going into Brown Act territory or
Yeah.
too much
I just
into
needed a
discussion of
general
ADUs, so
Okay.
if we
Okay,
could
thank
just
you.
limit it to the building codes from all.
Sorry, we'll get into that one. Is there a motion to introduce ordinance number 2022-504 and continue the meeting for November 22nd for second reading and adoption?
All motion. For the first reading of 2022-504 for the building codes.
There's a second.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
Okay. 13 is ordinance 2022-505, Chief Dak.
Yeah, it's on.
Cool. It's working.
Ordinance to adapt to adopt the 2022 California Fire Code and amend the Guadalupe Municipal Code to update fire and safety regulations. Background: State of California periodically updates California Fire Code to adapt to changing needs in an effort to continue enhancing the safety of the public. The most current version of the California Fire Code was released in 2022 and will become effective on January 1st, 2023. City staff is seeking city council approval to adopt the 2022 California Fire Code to regulate fire, to regulate fire, building, and safety issues consistently throughout the state. This code has been revised to enhance the public safety effort by remaining current on changing technology and risk. The last update to the fire code was in 2019. Primary focus of this request is to adopt 2022 California Fire Code. However, staff is also requesting that the council approve other amendments to the city's fire and safety regulations set forth in the Guadalupe Municipal Code. Fiscal impact: adoption of the 2022 Fire Code and amending the city municipal code regulations concerning fire and safety has no negative financial impact. Recommendation: it is recommended that city council introduce on the first reading and continue to the meeting of November 22nd, 2022 for the second reading and adoption. Ordinance number 2022-505, adopting the 2022 California Fire Code and amending the specified fire and safety ordinances in the Guadalupe Municipal Code.
Is there a motion to that effect?
All motion to adopt.
Any questions or comments?
All right,
All motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2022-505.
I will second.
all those, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
What's in that ordinance?
To continue the November 22nd.
That's the first.
Yeah,
reading.
first reading.
I said
First reading.
Yeah,
I said first.
yeah. Okay. All right, next item, if I'm clear, is item Main Street Obispo intersection traffic issues. Do you mind if we continue that?
You tell them I'm going to continue.
Okay, is there a motion by the council to continue that?
All motion to continue the Main Street Obispo intersection traffic.
Is there a second?
Go ahead and second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right.
No specific date on the
Next meeting.
meeting.
It wasn't.
Next year.
Yeah.
I motion to move it to the next meeting. No.
It's the next meeting. Okay, next item is salary increases.
Next year, I guess, yeah, Daniel.
Well, we can just, you know what, we've just taken it off calendar. It's not a public hearing, so.
Yeah.
We'll just continue it.
A future meeting and then to be decided.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Item, next item is ordinance salary increases for city officials. Mr. Finkel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You asked for this to come up in a future meeting during the last meeting, during the future agenda items. In response to a member of the public who had commented that the city council should consider an increase in their salaries. This is actually a new area for me. I hadn't really ever had to deal with this issue before. And it was interesting. It's basically one statute that controls it, Government Code Section 36516. And it's based, that section puts limits on what a maximum salary can be per population. City of Santa Maria, or excuse me, City of Guadalupe being under 35,000, its council members are allowed a maximum salary of $300 per month. Now, that's a little deceptive because that same section also provides that salaries of council members may be increased beyond this amount. But not in an amount equal to more than 5% for each calendar year from the last adjustment in the salary. Well, this salary was last adjusted in 1986, I think. And it was 87. Okay, I couldn't remember without looking. That was the word. Yeah. That
87.
was the last time that the council set a salary, and that was $150 a month. My guess was that's what the maximum was at the time, and that's why it stayed that way.
What's the inflation compounded yearly would not get.
Well, then that's, you laugh about compounding, that the Attorney General actually ruled that you can't compound it, it's 5% of $150 multiplied by the number of years, which is all set forth in here. I had to sharpen my pencil over this one, so it's 36 years, I think. So it all works out to that the council could give itself, in addition to setting its salary, I'm sorry, is this thing going on and off?
So
Sorry,
you're good.
okay. The council can automatically just increase its salary to $300 per the government code, but it also can take advantage of the fact that it hasn't been increased in 36 years by taking 5% of the $150, 750 times 36, or 270, which equals $570 per month. So the council could pass that tonight from 150 to 570, but council does not have to go with that amount. That is just the maximum that the council can go. I provided a chart that shows what other council members make, putting 70 right in the ballpark, even for a city this size. Two other points, the government code allows directly elected mayors such as yourself, Your Honor, to receive additional compensation with the consent of the electorate or an ordinance of the city council. That wasn't something that was discussed, so I did not include that in the ordinance, but that could be something that the council could do. Also, so you know, the city clerk and the city treasurer are elected officers, and there's a resolution that the city council passed in 1997 saying that they would be, their salary would be fixed at the same amount as a member of the city council. So any raise that you would give to yourselves could also get to them, go to them automatically, unless you took action to adopt a new resolution changing that. Which you could do. Cut out of the deal. And one other issue is pointed at this, like, I can't remember if you asked for consideration of a salary for rec and park commissioners. I think you said that they weren't earning anything. The council has the power to do that. That is a different section of the government code. And pretty much it can be, you're entitled to fix the compensation. I would recommend, without doing further research, not to fix it for more than 150, because that's the amount that's used for other meetings of, like, if you were, the council could give itself a salary for going to other meetings like SBCAG or whatever, And that amount is limited to 150. So, but if there was a desire to do more, I could research that and see if there's any any limit or minimum. I didn't find that in my initial purview. I just wanted to get an idea what the council wanted to do. And if there was more work it wanted me to do, I would do it.
Could
And
I-
that ends my report.
Can I add to Phil's, just from my experience working for other cities, stipends, I call them kind of a per diem stipend for committees like the Rec and Park makes sense because even though it's not a lot of money, there is an incentive there for them to go. And I don't know if you can allow it in such a way if they don't show up, that they don't get paid, but if they show up, they get paid. There's like a per diem, I'm not sure yet. The other thing I would also suggest is that the mayor does receive more because quite frankly, almost in every city I've ever worked for, the mayor did receive more because they preside the meeting and do a lot of ceremonial functions that are outside the purview of regular city council members. So I'd suggest the council maybe consider a little bit more for the mayor. In many cases, I've seen double, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Just so you can see, he did not run that by me before he just said that. He may have seen it, but I, so, just saying.
Oops, sorry, I
Yeah.
just, that's just what I've seen.
I don't think you can get double. There's
Well,
an-
I'm just, I'm throwing out there for
That's
competition.
why,
So we have just some information. It's funny. Because I'm looking at Buellton, for instance, they say $550, but medical and PERS is considered separate.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. I forgot to mention that. Retirement and health benefits are not considered salary. Obviously, reimbursement for expenses is not salary either. So that is a way that the council can, give itself good income with those kind of benefits as well. And I have seen other cities do that, so.
I have to.
Yeah, and I would just bring that up because, I was looking at the council, this was in 91. For Buellton, which is 5,000 population. And their wages are 6,180
And
a year. And retirement is 2,300. We don't have the horsepower to be giving the retirement benefits to me and the medical benefits, but that's me. So I was just wondering, just like these other cities, what we should note is that although we may not have the money as other cities have to compensate, we still have tasks before us. We still represent, the community. We still are on the buck stops with us. So I don't think that, especially 37 years of 150 is adequate for what we do. Comments from council, and I say on page 4, there's you're looking at the 420 from 150. And I personally would think that we should include the city clerk and treasurer
yeah,
as equals. Comments from council? Also, another thing, I would recommend that we basically compensate the mayor an additional 150, but not to go into effect until 12/10/24.
That certainly, I'm sorry.
You turn
I turned it off. I'm sorry. That certainly is something you could do.
Yeah, because I'm planning on staying here for another 2 years at 12/9/24. And somebody else will be in the mayor's position that'll.
It's not required. You could have it take effect in January 23rd.
can the council override his decision?
What do you wish of the council? Discussion.
Go retroactive. Just kidding.
Retroactive to 1980.
By the way, I canceled this out because I had nothing to do. And we would be getting over $1,200 a month based on 5%, not compounded, but 5% each of the years at 150. So if you 150, 5% is like $7. And then you take that and you add that and 5% of that,
on top of that.
Oh, it was compounded, yeah.
It's not compounded.
No, no, you don't get to do
compound
that.
You compound that, we'd be making more than you.
Yeah,
So,
you-
no, we wouldn't.
no, that's the way, well, Einstein did call it the most amazing thing in the universe, the compounding interest. But it's 5% of that first year, then just added.
5% base.
Exactly.
So, but I did the math.
1,300.
I did, well, did I make a mistake in math? I wish Lorena was here to double check my number. I am not a mathematician.
Regardless, we
Yeah.
have something before us, so we're good.
If I made a mistake, then I apologize.
No, you're right.
No,
You're
that's
right.
okay.
You're coming.
Yeah, he's just putting you on the spot.
Okay. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. I apologize. Okay, so I tried to anticipate something that there might be changes, and I started working on some revisions to the ordinance. Because I did make one mistake in that the ordinance just said that the salary would be a sum of 300 per year, excuse me, per month. In section 2.08.030, I added after the saying cities up to and including 35,000, this is the addition, and an additional 270 per month is authorized by section 3651684 of the government code for a total of 570 per month.
More than the 420 is what you're saying.
No, do we have the money to put
420 is the increase above 150.
Above one. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just asking. We have a budget. You know, if they want to cut it into anybody else's budget, but
Well, I don't know, Lorena's not here, I don't know what the budget actually has. I did give a fiscal impact of what these numbers would mean. I didn't include the mayor's additional, but then you said that would not take place until
2 years out.
2 years off, in which case to make it easy, I may just recommend that we continue that, if that's the desire. We would continue that to another meeting, because it wouldn't take effect until the next. You're saying you don't want it to take effect during your next term, you want it to be the term
that's
after.
for the mayor's side.
The mayor, yeah.
Whoever that.
So rather than complicate this ordinance with that, we don't need to, because it wouldn't take effect in the next 2 years, right? Or is that what was
When
your?
would this take effect if we approve it today?
If you have to prove today to have it take effect in January 23.
Well, then we need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, I don't, not prepared to do anything with the mayor's salary unless it's going to also take effect in January 23. So when was that going to take effect?
2024.
Oh, in January 2024?
Yeah,
Okay, well then, 1 year later.
yeah.
Okay, so I
that's
will have to add something to the ordinance. And
Can
that's
you add
gonna,
that now, or can you?
well, we have to add it now.
Okay.
The exact wording isn't as crucial this time because it's coming back for a second reading. But it has to be clear for the record what we're doing. So I'm gonna have to add section probably 2.08.060. To provide language about the mayor's salary of additional 150 a month. That takes effect in January 2024. As of January 1st, 2024. Okay, so just so that's clear for the record, I'm not gonna put that into the ordinance right now. I'm not gonna spend the time typing that, but that's clear that will add that section. Also, I wanna just clarify that in the ordinance is public, the reason I'm doing this is because we have a published ordinance for first reading. Salary section 2.08.040 has one paragraph that provides for an increase, but it's only, I noticed just tonight, it was based only on an increase based on population, which is, you have the right to do it pursuant to the other section of the government code. So I made that paragraph A, and then I added the following paragraph B. The council may also approve a salary increase as provided by section 3651684 of the government code. So the record is clear now. Those are the changes that would move the council's will forward.
I would like to see, the Recreation Commission get something as well, so, maybe possibly,
We can bring that forward.
320 and then 100. Or 150 or 120, something to, if we want to keep Do you know what I mean? As in like keeping the cost to 940, if that's what our budget is able to sustain.
And they meet
And
monthly.
then divide this for $420 a month.
The good news about that is we do not have to take that action tonight.
Okay.
Just
Because
separate
we
action.
only need direction from you about what you want separately, because there's no reason, the only reason we're trying to take action tonight is if we don't, then the ordinance will not be effective when the new council takes over. I mean, technically, the ordinance will be adopted the next meeting, and then the 2 weeks later, at the first meeting in December, there'll be a new council seated, but the ordinance won't take place for another 2 weeks or another week after that, because it takes 30 days. But my interpretation is as long as it's adopted
Mhm. Second reading.
on second reading before a new council sits, the increase takes effect. But if we were to continue this and adopt it, take the first reading next meeting and then adopt it into December, it wouldn't take effect for 2 years. Hence the rush to get it done tonight for the council salary. But for the Recreation and Parks Commission, there's no pressing need to put that on as an ordinance tonight, because you can just do it by resolution.
And they're not elected officials.
And they're not elected, they're appointed officials. The council can select their salary. So what I recommend is next meeting, when this comes back for second reading, I will bring an item for what you recommend, if there's support on this council for that. We'll bring back an item, resolution providing compensation for Rec and Parks Commissioners, if that's agreeable.
My thought is that I would also recommend probably $100 to the commission, but to keep what was recommended on here was it 440 for?
420.
420.
The 420 is the salary increase above your 150. So your salary would be 570.
No, I wouldn't go that high.
Okay, you don't want to go that high, okay.
No.
So I misunderstood.
I would go just for,
420 is what you want to go to?
that's my opinion, and also the commission.
For That'd be a separate item, but yeah.
Yeah,
I would also have questions regarding, if it's sustainable for this next 2 years.
That's not my department.
I know.
well, we got started about refunding.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I mean,
I think it.
I think it's really not it's almost negligible in comparison to sort of other parts of the budgets, but that's just me.
Right, but we have a very small gap in our budget right now. And anything over it, these next 6 months is very crucial. And this is gonna be adopted in January. That's my only concern.
Well, it's been 37 years.
$17,000, and we only had a gap of what, 40,000?
Yeah, well, it just depends. I suppose one could reverse it, but you.
You can't take it away
Oh, okay.
during the council member's term. So once it takes effect,
Okay,
you can reverse it for future councils, but not the current one that it's affected.
So our action is. We're changing the ordinance.
Mhm.
Yes, has to be by ordinance.
Yeah,
So I changed it, so instead of 570 per month, it's 420 a month. And there'll be a section added, adding 150 extra for the mayor. But that's not in there right now.
2024,
Yeah, effective January 1st, 2024.
or 25.
Well, if you want it for January 2025, then we don't have to do it tonight because it won't take effect during your term. That I assume you're being elected to tonight since you ran unopposed. So let me be the first to congratulate you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're late. I'd say we're looking at 420 then, and then we could deal with the.
The Rec and Park Commissioners, and if you do not want the raise for your upcoming term as mayor, then we can handle that separately too.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just leave the ordinance with the changes I've made. And I already read it. The only difference that from what I read before was the change from 570 to 420 a month.
That's my, yours, Gilbert.
Tony?
Only if it was retroactive, I would. No.
Like, I see the need personally, but it's just these next 6 months are crucial. Is there any way we could do after 6 months, after after our fiscal year? No?
I'm afraid that it's, you can't, you either do it now or it doesn't take effect for 2 more years.
And that'll be 39 years, no increase.
Yeah.
It's almost as old as me.
Now, no council member is required to accept the salary. They're entitled to waive the salary, just saying.
It was on the website that we did for a while too.
Okay, is there a motion to amend our ordinance to 420 with provisions in the upcoming meetings to look at the Recreation Commission and the mayor?
Doing that.
A motion? If your mom was there, you'd make the
I normally wouldn't say this, but I fully understand the concern and the appearance and all that. But you folks do deserve it. I know how hard you work and, it's already hard enough to attract people to public service in Guadalupe, as you well know. So every little bit will help. That's just my personal opinion, not my legal opinion.
What you're saying is we need to take it out of public safety.
I'm fine with that. As long as it doesn't come out of the city attorney's budget, I'm good with it. No, I'm kidding, of course. But I do think that, I do think that, I heard something encouraging about Santa Maria's budget, that it was more, better than they thought it was gonna be. And I know they have some other additional forms of revenue, but, it seemed to me that we may have some good news too, but I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in the finance, but it gave me some hope that our numbers will be higher at mid-year than we thought they might otherwise be. Might be a little more comfortable. Unfortunately, you have to make this decision tonight, so it is it does have consequences if that's not the case.
Well, we'll have 3 remaining council people that will move forward. Since these 2 fine young people will be leaving. And I think we've got Christina, who's just
She's elected.
elected,
Yeah.
and then we have another, and then we'll find out what we want to do with the next position. So I think it behooves us to give them the opportunity to say, well, I'm on the council and I'm looking at what other folks are getting. Other folks have more money, but we still make the decisions based on what we have.
It's not out of line.
Yeah, clearly not out of
Yeah.
line.
Somebody needs to take a stand or table this thing forever, because it's not worth sitting here wasting other people's time on something that I think is important.
A motion to approve the first reading for 2022-506 with the amendments that are in place.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's dead. Let's go to the next item.
Okay.
When are we at?
Council vacancy.
Vacancies?
Yep.
Former 15.
Okay. Item 16. Council seat vacancy.
Go again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Government Code Section 36512 provides that a city council must fill a vacant council seat within 60 days. Sorry, after the seat becomes vacant. And does so in two ways, either by making an appointment or calling for a special election to fill the seat. Councilmember Ramirez's resignation, and we're going to be very sorry to see him go. Will be effective on November, yeah, I think that would be better. His resignation, I believe, is effective on November 29th, which means that the council must make an appointment to fill the vacancy or call a special election no later than January 28th. Crazy.
No, it was about.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay.
Try this, is this better? Okay. Perfect. The staff recommends that the council fill this vacancy by appointment because of the cost of a special election. For just this one seat would be very expensive for the city. So assuming that the council agrees, staff is basically here requesting direction. Well, we need action. We need you to decide that it's going to be a appointment rather than a special election. And that being the case, some direction on the process. Staff's recommending a similar process to when we had the city clerk vacancy. We would have city would be, staff, the council, staff requested the council direct staff to provide notice to city residents by posting a notice on the city website and possibly in some other ways as directed by the council to inform persons who may be interested in serving the remainder of Councilman Ramirez's term. The notice would inform persons interested to submit a letter of interest, which would include a description of their qualifications for office and their reasons for wanting to serve in that capacity. Staff would recommend a 30-day period for submissions for those letters, and that the letters would be reviewed by the city council at its meeting on December 13th to select which applicants it's interested in interviewing in an open session to be held on January 10th, at which the council may select from those applicants and make the appointment at that meeting, or it could continue the deliberation selection process to the meeting of January 24th, where it would have to make the appointment at that time, or if necessary, call for the special election. I'm available for any questions.
We don't need a special election.
No, it's like
expensive.
No,
30,000.
way too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we need from us?
Well, assuming that, we'll have a motion to make the appointment. Actually, you don't even need to do that. Direction on, we have a consensus of the council to move forward with an appointment process. So you agree with staff's proposal on how to proceed, or do you have some alternative suggestions you would like to add or modify the proposal? I mean, for instance, maybe you want to speed it up so you're not waiting to the to January 10th to review the applications and decide which ones you want to. Maybe if there's only two, you might want to just decide to do it right then and there.
So that's the only thing that worries me, because I know that you said it has to be, there has to be someone sitting by January.
It's
20th.
60
Yes.
days.
So someone has to, so that would limit the timeline, right? Like if we got to January, or if they got to January 10th and they're like, whoa, we don't know if any, or if no applicants showed up, kind of
Right.
thing. That would
Right.
force them into it. So if
Exactly.
speeding up that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know how, I would imagine that there'd be, maybe no offense to Amelia, but maybe a little bit more interest in serving on the city council than as the city clerk. I mean, maybe she'll submit a letter of interest, who knows, but
The sooner the better.
Yeah.
okay, so maybe
Yeah.
not a 30-day period,
Yeah.
maybe a shorter period would be more inclined, in which case I'll pull up my handy dandy calendar here. And so we had a 15 days would be, well, the 23rd, which is the Wednesday after the next meeting. And then but still the December 13th is really the first meeting that you could actually review the applications, so.
Unless there's a special meeting.
Yeah, you could do a
Yeah,
special meeting,
yeah.
and that may make sense in December if there's
Only one.
Holidays or whatever.
holidays are around that, around, you probably don't want to have a meeting on the 27th of December, but maybe you do. So. We could do a special meeting.
27th of December sounds great. to me.
And Lily too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Great stuff.
So, yeah, anything you can, how's, this is your appointment process, we're here to serve your desires.
Well, the sooner the better, so,
You want, we could do a special meeting,
Special meeting.
well, problem is Thanksgiving's coming up, and that's not a very popular, I think the special meeting should be the first week of December rather than, in November.
Then we have a council meeting on what, the 10th?
Yeah, if you had a special meeting on the 6th to review the, applications, or maybe,
When's our first meeting? in
maybe you don't
December?
need to,
Could you put it on the
I
first
don't know,
meeting?
that there's a way to. There's no way to select the applicants, or to deliberate them except in a meeting, so,
just put it on a regular.
Regular meeting, December
Okay.
10th
well, we could, well,
or whatever that.
do you want to just make the application process so that the applications are due on. The 18th of November, which is
10 days.
very, like 10 days. That way you'll have them for the agenda and we can have it on the next meeting. And if you don't get any interested takers, then maybe you can. We can continue to take applications. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out.
December 6th. Or that week, that first week in December,
Yeah,
would that be a possible date for like a
Special.
special meeting, and then we'll have our regular meeting on the 13th?
certainly. I full disclosure, I will be out of the state on that date, but Wendy can cover that meeting. I assume. But if somebody will.
It's good.
Or I could do it, if I had to, I could appear by Zoom, I suppose, but
We could do
it
that.
would be a pretty short meeting, I think, and limited to that topic, so December 6th makes good sense.
Let's do that.
The applicants, applications are reviewed on this.
November
No,
18th.
That's not gonna happen, that was just a suggestion.
Oh.
So the applications could be, I would say December 1st, so that there's one day to put them, include them in the agenda. Which will go out the next day. Oh, no, it's right, special meeting. I know that Juana likes to do it on Friday, but we could. Actually do the special meeting on the 5th, so the agenda could be published on the 5th. Meeting on the 6th, applications due on the 2nd. Again, I'm just throwing it out there, it's your process, that's almost. Well, I'm bad with math, that's 20,
I guess people turkey day to decide.
about 21 days or so, 22.
Or can we do it in 10 days? I mean, is that too ambitious?
That you'd have to solicit and you'd have to find,
Yeah, probably too.
It's like headhunt.
Tanner's gone. Sorry to interrupt.
fine, that's it.
The
Oh,
keys
for the
to
keys
the,
to the
yeah,
back.
we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
10 days is too short.
Yeah, it's too short.
yeah, I wish we could do 15, or I mean, I wish we could do like right after the day of the meeting, but we have to make those materials available. You know what, I
If you have
suppose,
questions.
well, yeah, I don't know, it's tricky,
Do we need to have
Sure.
the, because I imagine it's just like the similar as Recreation Commission, right? We're just a letter of interest.
Yeah. well, I suppose.
Unless you want to interview.
We could do the, as long as the letters are received on the day before. They could just be made available on the day of the meeting. and council won't even know who's applying. And you're only selecting the applications, you're not interviewing them, you're only selecting the applications, but then that doesn't give you any time to review them except essentially the day of the meeting. So I don't really recommend that. But if that's a real concern about the time, that would be one way to do it. We could start advertising it tomorrow and then the applications, I'm looking in December. That's definitely not the right time.
I have a question for the mayor.
The
Okay,
18th,
he's got a question.
So when Chief Tucker, were you on the council at the time when Chief Tucker was here?
Yeah.
How did that one? Cause I remember I had put in and we just all went up to the podium. With our letters. And you
On
guys
his
said,
selection?
and you guys had picked Betty.
I can't remember.
Yeah, there was Regina was still here. I don't remember how, cause I don't think the process went.
When we selected Benny or
Betty.
Beatty, oh, okay.
Oh, John D.
Beatty, yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry.
So that when you guys, cause there was,
Yeah, and it was just like I did, that I filled a position when Beatty was there. That they just asked, we basically
Letter of interest.
sent a letter of interest and then the council just interviewed us and made the decision then, so. Because there wasn't a lot of people that came forward. Then we
there
did
was
this
three.
time.
and there was three of us.
Well, yeah, then maybe we just make the applications due on no later than the 9th. And then you just you make the decision on the 13th, and if you have to request other applications. I mean, that would cut 2 weeks off, because again, I assume that there probably may not be a meeting on the 27th, but there's one scheduled.
No, there's not.
There's not one, yeah, I assume there wasn't, so.
Precedence.
Yeah, exactly, and so that would mean the next meeting would be the 10th, and that's why I came up with the timetable I did. So you could just say that the 13th would be the day you make the appointment, and the 27th,
No, 13.
yeah, the 13th is.
Okay.
So what do you have figured there?
I don't, I had, what I had figured was, to just have a reasonable period of time, 30 days roughly, for applications to come in, they would come in, okay, well. It mostly was chosen partly by precedent and also by the fact that the meeting schedule being what it is now, because we have an extra couple days in November that are throwing things off. So the second meeting in December is the 13th. That's our first meeting. We're not meeting again after the 22nd.
Could you have it theoretically at the November 22nd meeting?
No, that's what they're saying. There's not enough time. I mean,
No, I mean,
theoretically, we could.
Or do it the 12th?
Well, that's what I mean, you could do 10 days period, and then that's it. And if you get a couple applications and you decide to do the process, that would be fine, but if you don't feel 10 days is enough, then we're gonna need more time and we can't do it on the 22nd. And that was the point. So,
So special meeting on the 6th or
yeah,
a hot seat on the 13th.
yeah, pretty much, or combination of both. But even though you do have the month of January, I mean, maybe. I thought that I thought that you have 2 meetings in January and you could always continue. I mean, if 13th, there's no more applications that come in, you could use that meeting to make an appeal. And get them in time for the 2 meetings in January. So I don't know, it's just if you feel that there's a need to get it going sooner rather than later, then I think a special meeting on the 6th is your best
I think
option.
we need to get we get an individual that's really concerned about what we want to be able to do, so we don't want to rush it.
Yeah.
and we just basically have a list of questions that are asked that person. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, all things I've heard, I'm confident that if we use the time period from now until the meeting of December 13th to generate interest, you all know people that you'd like to see submit applications and ask them to. So letters of interest, we could gather that and then prepare a nice packet for you, bring it on the 13th, and then if you can make an appointment right then, great. If you can't, do it on the 10th. Of January, if you can't, then you still have the 24th, so I think that there's plenty of time to do it.
Let's go with that.
Okay, so the plan is stated in the staff report. Okay, but it's good that we deliberated
Yeah.
and considered the options. All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tony. You're welcome.
It's all Tony's fault. It's all Tony's fault.
Okay, we're going to 17, reclassification of business manager position in finance. So,
It's Amelia.
We're-
Lorena's not here.
Yeah.
It'd be
We still have a-
Oh, Yeah. Yeah.
In the interest of time, I have summarized.
Mhm.
In the interest of time, I'll summarize. This is a reclassification, the position of business manager, which I have always felt is a misnomer for that position. We're looking at, with the reorganization for this very small department. Going from a very flat organization where the several, positions, which I could call on the operations side, reporting into, and the business manager reporting into the finance director. We're having those, clerk positions reporting to a renamed accounting supervisor. The primary reason for the name change and the reclassification is giving the individual, who's been performing that function, the actual accountability of supervising. Over time, more and more time, and the incumbent has been here a lengthy time. Put that aside, what's happened is that that position has overseen the account clerks, but has had no accountability and responsibility for actually supervising. So in discussing this with our finance director, it was requested to reclassify that position. The fiscal impact on that is none for this fiscal year. The intent is not solely to give an increase to the incumbent, but there is consideration to do so no later than November of next year. The position is graded at a higher level, of course, because of the supervisory responsibility. And the other piece of this is that there's a focus, a real need for, we've said this before, customer service, but also in talking to the finance director, someone to really look at the internal controls. And that's one of the things that the auditing, the auditors have said, and not just this go around, but it's been said in prior audits. This will allow the finance director to focus on more visionary things, more financial programs, budgeting, emphasis on so financing and the regular and increasing quarterly, semi-annually, and annual reports to various agencies, county, state, and federal. Again, the impact fiscally is not for this fiscal year. The recommendation is to approve the reclassification as well as to approve the very minor reorganization. Questions?
Any questions from the council? Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve resolution 2022-98.
Yes. Thanks. Any discussion? Roll call, please, real quick.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Robles.
Aye.
Mayor Julian.
Aye, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. 18.
Thanks. Yeah.
What's there, yo?
Oh, don't, you guys can hide.
Yeah, well, we're not.
Can I hide?
New employment agreement between the city of Guadalupe and Todd Bodum as city administrator. Amelia.
Last report as a HR person. What we take?
Yeah.
Yeah, say yes, say yes. Okay, again, I am gonna bullet points. Todd Bodum, our city administrator, was hired November 1st, 2019 with a 3-year term, which went through October 31st of this year. The provisions that were in the initial or original 3-year term remain, and except for these new changes. A 2-year term, which will run from November first this year through October 31st, 2024. The salary is 146,864. After 1 year, 11/1/2023, Mr. Bowden will be eligible for a 3% increase, contingent on satisfactory performance. There is also the possibility of another, going up to another 3%, should Mr. Bowden meet certain criteria. And there'll be measurable objectives to be given to him prior to, or no later than January 10th. This is under a new program that is pay for performance. And there will be measurable objectives, and correct me if I'm correct, Philip, that these measurable objectives need to go to council first.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure. In addition, the new piece in this 2-year term is $150 a month car allowance. There is a city-owned car that is available to Mr. Bowden, and should he choose not to use it or it's unavailable, or he might want to use his personal vehicle, that's the $150 car allowance. The last addition to this new 2-year term is that if an employee receives an increase to his base salary, which is higher than Mr. Bowden's, he will automatically receive a 3% increase to his base salary. The previous provision in his initial agreement was that he would receive about an hour more. And though the fiscal impact to the general fund is approximately, I believe this is rounded up 11,000 during the first year, excuse me. First year of the agreement, and up to about 20,000. So he's awarded a salary increase in that 7-year term of the agreement. Questions?
Questions from the council? Todd, any comments?
I just want to say thank you. Obviously, I haven't approved anything yet, and I appreciate working here. And I appreciate all that you have done for me, and I want to do more for you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-100?
A motion to approve the resolution 2022-100.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Robles.
Aye.
Mayor Jillian.
Aye. All right, thank you, Todd.
Thank you so much.
Next
We'll
item,
bring some money for those.
there you go. Future agenda items.
I gotta call this guy.
From the left side, Gilbert, anything? Future? No. Jean? Anything? Is there a motion, let's see, activity reports, announcements, council activity committee reports. Negative,
For the micro enterprise advisory committee, we are trying our best to get everything in line for the November 22nd for the grantees, but we have new staff that's in here for LIDG, so they're also learning, and we're also trying to brush up on stuff, but hopefully we'll have some.
Council meeting, if you wanna call in or sign in.
all right,
Don't-
before we adjourn to,
Oh, no.
okay,
Just so everybody knows, 3 of our Bulldog teams are out of the playoffs, but 1 team is still in there. The junior Bulldogs are still in the playoffs and are still in the hunt for going to the Super Bowl.
Dominated, I think.
And I heard,
57-7.
yeah,
51-7.
so their next game is Saturday, I believe. Not sure on the location. But if you're out there, come support.
It's at San Ynez High School at 1 o'clock.
I have one more, actually.
okay,
This Saturday, November 12th, Central Style at Leroy Park, it got moved from Jack O'Connell now to Leroy Park, and then at night we'll have the Roaring 50s dance here.
I thought that was-
That got,
Kidding.
it did because they didn't get enough, yeah.
Just kidding. Never mind, such a style. Place for talk.
and they're at Leroy.
They're at Leroy now, it's changed.
So, last night, the basketball game here against Lakeview, the girls, Wildcat 7th grade team lost, but the boys won. And on tomorrow night will be another home game for the 7th grade basketball team here at City Hall.
Cool. There's a gentleman out there. You want to say anything or you? I'm glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
You can go anywhere you want, yeah. Okay.
Hi, my name is Stefan. I go by my middle name Ross. It's easier for a lot of people sometimes.
Okay.
Johnson, and I moved to Guadalupe, where the new Pasadena owns, in April. So I'm a little interested in politics myself, so. just
That and
wanted
fiber
to-
optics and politics. That's-
Well, I work on base, so I
Oh, okay.
I do IT for them over there. so
Oh, okay.
watching some of the issues going on, I was like, yeah, I could go up there and fix them.
Okay.
Yeah, just interested in say, local politics.
Well, glad to see you here. Welcome.
Yes,
to
thank
Richmond.
you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Here, you wanna?
Honestly, kind of, yeah.
Bard, Christmas stuff.
What's that?
The Christmas thing I sent.
Yeah.
I didn't get.
I just saw it today.
Yes, there.
Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Close session.
Return to closed session.
Second.
I will second that.
Okay, let's just shut this off.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.